Morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Tackle, being the Wednesday of 21st April 2021. Tarehe ni 21 mwezi wa 4 mwaka 2021. Natumai ya kwamba uko salama. Nashukuru kujumuika na wewe tena kwa siku ya leo. Karibu kwenye Tackle. Naomba kama kawaida ya kwamba ukifika that like, when you like, I get to know that you're watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. And Jenny, please like, share, and let us know where you're watching us from. Kama kawaida tulianza jana mkondo mpya. Tunaanza na nyinyi, unatuambia mahali upo, hali iko vipi? Alafu kabla hatujaanza kazi, kabla tujaingia kwenye mjadala, siku ya leo ni kawaida Wednesday, siasa Wednesday ni siku ya siasa. Wednesday tunapiganga siasa, gumzo ya kisiasa kidogo, kujua ni nini linafanyika kwenye ulingo wa kisiasa, nani amefanya nini na kwa nini, wapi. Haya, kama kawaida tuko na Governor P Mushendu. Pia leo tuko na Dennis Ndumbi, ameweza kutujua. Juzi mlianza kulima kina Dennis Ndumbi mambo ya kanisa na kina Mushendu. Pia tuko na Ruth Mbogo ambaye anaomba kura pale Vihiga. Subiri bana, ngoja utakuwa na wakati wako wa kufanya disclaimer. Haya, so tuko na pia na women rep aspirant wa Vihiga ambaye anaitwa Mama Masa. Alikuwa anaitwa Mali Safi, siku hizi anajiita Mama Masa. Ruth Mbogo, mheshimiwa Ruth Mbogo hajaweza kufika kwenye studio, tunamsubiri. Sijui kwa nini ameanza kulala na kazi mapema. Hata watu wapiga kura wameanza kusema bwana, kama women rep anachelewa kazi ya studio, ataweza kweli ya bunge? Haya, Ruth Mbogo, mahali ulipo jua kwamba ni kubaya. Haya, nataka kwanza na watu kwanza kukupa airtime haraka ndio kesi ishe. Wa kwanza ni Ben Menja. Asante sana. Acha nione chape picha haraka upesi. Ben Menja, wana Don Maverick 2, Sophie Sira 3, Mwingi wa Kimunyi 4, 5 Ruth Chepkosgei, 6 Stephen Kiprotich, 7 Darlington Karaoke, 8 Cheruyat Aizokip, 9 Vincent K Langat na 10 Jamal Jaden. Hao ni watu wameweza kujishindia airtime. Nitasoma tena kwa mara nyingine. Number 1 Ben Mayo, number 2 Don Maverick, number 3 Sophie Sira, number 5 Migwi Cyrus, number 6 Drew Chepkosgei, number 7 Stephen Kiprotich Sergon, number 8 Darlington Karaoke, number 9 Cheruyat Aizokip, number 9 Vincent K Lagat, number 10 Jamal Jaden. Tuma namba yako haraka kwenye inbox, alafu utakuja kupata airtime yako. Sitaki vilio, sitaki kulia, sitaki watu wanalia wakitoa machozi. Kama nimesoma jina yako, tafadhali tuma namba yako kwa inbox. Ben Menja, Don Maverick, Sophie Shira, Migwi Kimunyi, Ruth Chepkosgei, Stephen Kiprotich Sergon, Darlington Karaoke, Cheruyat Aizokip, Vincent K Lagat na Jamal Jaden. Haya, asante sana, thank you so much. Naona Ben Menja anasema on point. Asante sana Don Maverick, Logdina, Sophie Shira. Haya, kama kawaida sitaki kuanza kazi kabla sijaenda mbele za Mungu. Before we start, always lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu kirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu haraka upesi. Ilikuwa lazima nianze kwanza kupeana credit kwa sababu nikifika hapa comments zitakuwa zimetuacha na tungekuwa za time. Haya, tuende mbele za Mungu. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. We thank you, Father, for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. We thank you for something that you've given us to wake up to, even as you're going to speak to the nation. We pray that you're going to give us the wisdom that they need. We even thank you for the audience. Every struggle that they're going through this morning, I pray that you may be able to meet them at their point of needs. Every cry and every pain that they're suffering from, Mighty Father, may you relieve them. As we start, be with us. When you finish, glory and honor shall come back to your name. In Jesus' mighty name I do pray, trusting and believing. Amen and amen. Haya, tafadhali like, share, and let us know where you're watching us from. Gideon Biwat and some have really waited for this show. Asante sana. Kiplandu, keep quiet, Larry, logged in from Eldoret. Thank you, Kipto Sam, logged in. 7 Kiprotich Sergon, good morning. Nasari Kosgei, Amia, Tempole. Umefika kama wachela Cheruyat Wesley. Cheruyat Wesley, mpotele hapa Cheruyat Wesley Kipruta anasema the class LO. Asante sana, good morning. JB Classic Hin, Frank Diaz Todobien, Mon Biwat anasema kondani mwana wa Mzimbi, good morning to you. Paul Bitong mzee anasema hello, good morning Tackle and Tacklas watching from a Red Village Eldoret. Asante sana mzee. Gideon Biwat loud and clear from Kamukunji Business Center. Asante Ngetich Vini, salimia tu Kamukunji sana na crew ya Kamukunji Police Station pale. Usiogope polisi ni rafiki, wanakuashia moto Thika Road naota. Imbia pale Kamukunji wasalimia. Ngetich Vini anasema ndani. Ole Sepa Chirchir, Vincent Lamu County, Barsovi Kiprich Junior Mantelgo na kondani. Patrick, good morning Bitok, you are watching from Nairobi. Honorable Nelson Omusi, I'm tuned in from Utawala, Nairobi for Smart Lady, incoming women rep Senator Vihiga County, wakili Honorable Ruth Mbogo. Hala Marindanya anasema yuko Kajiado. Ngetich Vini watching from Kipkelio. Asante sana Alberto Batos watching from Kapenguria. Ngetich Rodney, good morning from Kericho County. Eunice Washera watching from Nanyuki. Kiprop Kevik. Gerald Bitok, the tackle is now contagious and addictive. Good morning Taklas. Good morning to Kiprop Vinki. Asante sana. Endelea kumeza dawa yako ya asubuhi. The tackle Branto yuko ndani. Anasema tuned in. John Matt watching from Isabania border. It's a chilly morning here. Haya, salimia watu wa Isabania. Pole na mtafute duve. Haya. Asangunya Kim anasema yes yuko ndani. Dennis Kitari, sijui kama umeshare broadcast, tafadhali ukiingia pale please like and share and let me know where you watching us from. Niambie unatazama kutoka wapi, alafu tunaanza kazi namna hiyo. Dennis Kitari yuko ndani. David Kitur watching from Kapsabet, asante sana unakuwa na badge yako ya top fan. Gideon Biwat anasema hata be umekoza uko namba 7D. Wanaina Njeri niko ndani nikiwa Iraq, asante sana tu wa Iraq. Natumai kwamba mko fiti. Nimeona Biden amesema anatoa jeshi lake pale Iran, so natumai kwamba mko salama, mko fiti. Leshamu Junior na kuona Leshamu Roti Junior watching live from Nairobi, tuko pamoja kama sini. Good morning my fellow Atlas, might love from Mombasa. Pambana na hii Kenya Deep State. Mkate ni 60 bob, mazoea ya Deep State ni 60 bob. Bahati mbaya. George Buckley watching from Elgon View. Charles Mboda yuko ndani. Collins Misoi KE MC Kali ya jambo mwenyekisha Kettle Deep Chairman. Linda Kodit, good morning tuned in from Bavaria. Asante sana watu wa Bavaria. Ambassador Alfred Sejen asema ageni graded. Haya Ambassador, pole bwana umejeleweko. Kwa Chip Kembaye Bavida anasema good morning Bitogo. Edwin Todd tuned in from Juja. Joel Kibor live from South Sudan capital Juba. Asante sana watu South Sudan. Joel Rama chairman mwenyewe anasema I'll claim number 4. Haya kuclaim na vitu kwa ground ni vitu tofauti sana, very different. JK Bore anasema the show is hot. Asante sana Moses Kibenenyi Ganet. Need some more insight on BBI live machinani Kapseret. People still don't understand this thing. Hey. Asikia kwanza different versions ya BBI zilienda kwa county assembly. Mungu ni mwema hii Kenya. Mungu ni mwema. Kibora Lagata anasema Eldoret live. Freddy Jones anasema tunataka va. Geneso Mjage tuned in. Watsanga Benedict Kondane. Robert Kidhire following from Deya Limuru. Say I to my buddy Governor Mushendo. Asante sana Marius Kipkirui. Good morning Tip Tackle tuned in from Nairobi Kenya. Kiptai Vini. Dennis, welcome to where you can express your views which are not driven to certain direction. Haya karibisheni, pigeni makofi ya kilo, makofi ya kano. Haya Kibor Lagan, I'm always proud to be with the program. Special greetings to you and Alfred Koech in Australia. Asante sana Kibor. Maureen Pilale anasema iko ndani. Kiprop Joshua, good morning watching from Eldoret. Bowen Piruta na kwa anasema following Kipkoech Kipkemai Baba Fidel, good morning Joab Bitok watching live from Baringo County Mogotio area. Tuko pamoja. Ondere Junglin Bitok, habari ni mzuri sana Ondere, sina maneno. Joseph Kuya watching from Blangata. Asen Alexis amin ndani, asante sana Alexis. Kiblimara Brono watching from Nakuru. Rotich Lemi yuko ndani. Sophie Shira watching from Mirema, asante sana. Geoffrey Kamenyi following from Mombasa. Esli Chirchio sama yuko ndani, asante sana. Hello. Kimnetich good morning Gerald, loud and clear from Kiungo Ruiru. Joseph Kuya tuned kabisa, asante. Chiriat Aisoke anasema show iko sawa kabisa from Nairobi. Koech Kipkemai Baba Fidel, good morning Gerald Bitok watching live from Baringo County Mogotio. Tuko pamoja. Joseph Makumi Munga Governor yuko ndani. Mutai Kilbert watching from Kwale County, asante sana. Genesis Mjagi watching from Embu County. Darlington Kaburi, good morning from Nairobi. Gili Kipboyd, good morning Gerald Bitok. It's been a while, I've been busy a little but I'm back. Karibu sana Gili Kipboyd. Koech Kipkemai Baba Fidel watching live from Baringo, asante sana. Well Ben Skips tuned in from Eldoret. Bari Koech Bari at Kapsoy Eldoret kondani, asante sana. Maina Paul watching from Muranga. Meto Mesha watching from Sengeronic Nandi, asante sana tu Sengeronic. Eva Jeff Kema anasema favorite morning show, asante sana mheshimiwa. Nashukuru kukuona Mburugu Kinyanjwa, good morning Tatakolit Kinyanya. It's always good to start with a prayer as always you do, then you start tackling them. Asante sana. Shemaina, good morning watching from Nairobi. Koech Kipkemai Baba Fidel, haya umetuma zako sana. Kipkoech Waithira Duchess of Kiambu watching, asante sana Joseph. Lakini Josephine, nilikuwa na vile ni Joseph, nimeshanga. Haya vipi? Haya Josephine Waithiru anasema the Duchess of Kiambu watching, asante sana Duchess of Kiambu. Don Maverick, good morning watching from the heart of the capital Samuel Kigera, watching from Berlin. Rono Kipkoech Nyamira North Kerenyo Police Station. Salimia sana crew ya Nyamira North Kerenyo Police Station. Nashukuru sana kuwaona. Salimia crew yote, waambia kwamba tunapenda zaidi. Askari ni rafiki, anakuashia moto Thika Road unaota upate pneumonia. Kipkoech Kipkemai Fidel na kuona, asante sana. Chiri Limo, good morning. Good morning to you Collins Cho Obongo, good morning watching live from Oma Bay. Dennis Kembai niko ndani. Godi Sang Godfrey from Nairobi. Koech haya na kuona no Koech asema good morning, good job. Kibruta Oscar, good morning Mogote Timothy Baringo is watching. Gideon Kibiwat, hii barua ya Tuji imefika kwako. What's your take about it? Haya, ndio tumeona Agutu God Joshua live and direct from Berlin. Rujab Kosge, good morning from Milimani Road. Chimi Kagio Chamuge, asante sana. Pastor Moses Kamau live from Sisibo, asante sana. Milicha Rob Gotea Rudha Mbogo, Radio Jambo Mlanyama, mimi ndio rais wao. Solo Kenya anasema good morning Gerald, what follows after UDA is expelled out of Jubilee? Wangwana atatuambia ni vipi. Unajua mimi ni bishop, sipendi mambo ya siasa, mimi nikuuliza tu maswali watajibu hao. Nicholas Olele Saloi watching from Narok. Kolimotives anasema Kolimotives from Kabarak, asante sana. Agutu ameamsha Julius Meso, baadhi ya msheni watu tafadhali amsha rafiki mmoja, when you get in please amsha rafiki mmoja ili tuende kuanza kazi pamoja. Amwan be what na kuona haya. Tunaingia kwa program nyingine. Tunaanza na wewe. Tafadhali unaweza piga simu tuambie hali ulipo kiko vipi. 0779 800 010 0779 800 piga simu tuambie hali mahali ulipo iko aje. 800 nimeweka nambari pale kwenye comment section. 0779 800 haya, piga simu. Nimeweka hapo nambari, upige simu tuambie hapo mahali ulipo state of the nation iko aje. Piga simu, nimekuwekea 0779 800 010 0779 800 010 0779 800 010. Naweza piga simu utuambie mahali ulipo hali ikoje. Haya, naona mheshimiwa Jared Kimeto ameingia. Mheshimiwa Jared Kimeto watching from the hills of Kaptabe Tapsagoi. Asante sana, salimia watu wa Tapsagoi, watu wa Tapsagoi ward mnasalimiwa na Jared Kimeto. Anasema ni mheshimiwa wenu wa Tapsagoi ward ambaye anaingia. McDonald's Lele anasema Eldoret iko locked. Asante sana. Munga Luto continue enjoying the show from Convent United Kingdom. Asante sana. Kipkweja anasema thank bro, we are watching live from Ekerenyo Police. Asante sana, salimia crew yote hapo. Logged in from Mombasani, asante sana. Hiyo ni Kusimba Desam. Titus Boton asema Eldoret live. Harun Deritu Wetland well tuned in. Sanito Kinyanjui salimia Mushendo. Haya, atasalimika kwa pesa. Sijui kama kuna salamu mnesahau ya mtu pale. Wanjiku Kitau amepiga makofi, asante sana Wanjiku Kitau, good to see you. Nicholas Olelasoi watching from Narok. Kolimotives anasema Kolimotives from Kabarak. Unaweza piga simu utuambie state of the nation mahali ulipo iko aje. 0779 800 010 0779 800 010. Tunaanza na wewe, utuambie mahali ulipo mambo iko aje. Hali ya hanga, ulilala barabarani ama ulilala nyumbani? Kama ulilala barabarani tunakuambia good night, kama ulilala nyumbani tunakuambia good morning, kwa sababu basi safari yako ndio inaanza. Kama ulilala barabarani uanze kusonga nayo. Haya, tutachukua simu zenu 0779 800 010 0779 800 010. Tunaanza na wewe, tuambie hali ulipo kukoje. Ulala kwenye curfew ama ulala nyumbani? 0779 800 010 0779 800 010. Ana kuna mtu ameanza kuuliza ya time mapema. Huyu ni nani huyo? Huyu ni UDM member. Haya, asante Mushendo. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Bitok.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, my brother. I've missed the tag class kwa sababu it's 2 weeks. Is it 2 weeks? Oh, I was here on that.
It's only 1 week.
No, if I
don't. Hata you're here on Thursday.
If I don't come on my normal day on Wednesday.
Unasikia ni kama hujakwanga.
Sasa ukiniweka pamoja na Arama takes the day. So I want to say hi to everyone who is watching. I want to thank you for tuning in.
Tusikia wananchi kidogo. Jambo, good morning. Habari asubuhi.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you sir. Huyu ni chairman Menokwisha Cathedral Department, ni vipi? Nasikia sauti kama nijua.
Ni huyo jamaa.
Vipi leo? Jana uliambia rais angalie nyuma kwa safari yake mali ametoka.
Niko salama na jana tuzungumzia sana yanaendelea hapa nchini Kenya na haswa hapa mjini Eldoret, na labda tusirudie leo. Lakini pia kuendeleza tu yale ambayo tulianza kuzungumzia jana, na pia kushangaa kwa vingine ambavyo labda hatuna majibu. Na unajua alikuwa anaangalia, ukiangalia sasa ni kama ni mwaka moja kuanzia ile wakati tulianza kuelewa COVID ni nini, na tukaanza kuelewa labda inahitaji kushughulikiwa vipi. Na ukiangalia mwaka moja wakati kama huu mwaka jana ndipo Wakenya walikuwa wanaitisha sana ile lockdown.
Tupeni lockdown.
Niko nakumbuka wakati kama huu tulikuwa tunaulizana mbona rais asi lockdown tu kitu miezi miwili alafu tikue sawa. That was the time last year, ilikuwa wakati kama nyakati kama hizi. Pia ilikuwa wakati kama huu ndipo pia serikali hizo walikuwa wameanza kuonekana ni kama wanaanza kushughulikia COVID-19. Nakumbuka ilikuwa pia nyakati kama hizi ndio watu walikuwa wanashikwa sana. Ilikuwa ukipatikana unaenda quarantine. In fact, if there was a time last year then the term quarantine was trending.
Yes.
Ilikuwa nyakati kama hizi. Sasa mwaka mmoja baada ya hizo
na sijui karantini iliandanga wapi bwana. Sijui karantini iliandanga wapi. Mbagathi ilianda wapi?
Baada ya hizi pilika zote. Kama wakati pia kama huo ndio tulikuwa tunaanza kufungiwa. Ilikuwa I think mwezi mmoja kutoka sasa ndipo za nchi ikafungwa kabisa. Tukawa Mombasa kumefungwa, Nairobi kumefungwa. Ukitizama vizuri mwaka mmoja umepita. It is exactly 1 year and we are seeing the same drama. And even with the presence of the vaccines.
Yes.
As a country, if you are observant enough, you will notice that we are exactly where we were last year.
We've not made any progress.
In terms of management, we've not made any progress.
Okay.
In terms of even the knowledge that people have kuhusiana na COVID. You notice that I think the only thing that has labda imepungua is the stigma. But in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the carefulness, in terms of the seriousness, there's no change of strategy.
Okay.
And so my biggest question this morning is, what is the government doing? Okay, now this one I know it won't be answered, but then this is one thing that people should ask themselves, because if you are, because I'm sure somebody yesterday said that the problem comes in when you are going to the ballot. So, also in such matters of health and matters of security, because now these are security at a different level.
Okay.
What is the government doing apart from using crude ways za kushikilia watu pale Thika Road, curfew za kipuzi? What exactly is the other strategy now to make sure that we wipe out this disease? Because even with the vaccination, we are not serious enough. You notice that vaccination in itself, I think we are not yet even 99% of the people have not even, first of all, understood how this vaccine works. Nobody is doing nobody is even educating the people on hii vaccine ukipatiwa inakaa hivi. No, just that enda chukua, you are okay, kuna wenye wanaruhusiwa, kuna wenye hawaruhusiwi. So you notice that we are still at the same place where we were last year.
Okay.
Now, as a business person, my biggest worry is then when shall we be coming back to normality in terms of transacting business in this country?
Okay.
Yeah, that's like if I were to ask people to have conversation, I would tell them to have conversations around. Now, when are we expecting normality? Because there was a time we were saying things will be back to normal, but then now let's time to this. Yeah, nilini, when is it happening?
Asante sana chairman, salimia watu wamenokwisha, ambie tunapenda zaidi na waanze kutizama. Najua kwamba watu wamenokwisha na watu wamechanuka kuna masimu ya smartphone. Thank you so much. Okay, section is State of the Nation. State of the Nation naanza kujua kwamba mahali ulipo hali ikoje, kama ulala nyumbani ama ulala barabarani. Kama ulala nyumbani nakwambia good morning, kama ulala barabarani tunakwambia good night, kwa sababu safari yako ya kwenda nyumbani ndio sasa inaanza. Naona ndio sasa women rep umepewa last warning na wapiga kura. Ukichelewa siku nyingine hakuna kura, kwa sababu amesema kama unachelewa studio bunge utaweza. Haya, Mshendo ulikuwa unaendeleza, tunarudi kwako.
Women rep kama Rilala barabarani, he is one of the people who must have violated.
Takusumbua tena.
Yes.
Naona Mkenya tayari amfika hapa. Jambo, State of the Nation.
Gerald, good morning.
Good morning to you. Haraka sana, hali ikoje mahali ulipo? Lala nyumbani ama lala barabarani?
Nilala nyumbani, hapa ni ushago kidogo.
Haya, good morning. At least kama lala nyumbani tunakwambia good morning. Kama lala barabarani tunakwambia good night.
Asante, good morning.
Nazungumza na nani?
Gerald?
Yes.
Unazungumza na Ondiek from Sotik.
Ondiek, kijambo kaka.
Mzuri sana.
Tuambie hali ilivyo, ikoje mahali uliko?
Hali ni mbovu tu, lakini ni kusema ya kwamba kuna hii kitu ya kukimbizwa ya mouth mask na hizo vitu na COVID. So kitu serikali ingesaidia ni kuleta hata hii pay bill ya serikali, alafu tunalipa direct. Unajua pesa tunalipa mingi sana kwa mapolisi hapa ndogo. Jana unacheka. Hapana cheka.
Unataka pay bill?
So kama wanakuja kutusanya, wakuja tu na jaji, alafu tulipe tu direct. Alafu hiyo vitu tena wawezi bwana. Isikuwe hii unaambiwa 10,000. Ikuwa hata 500 hivi tunalipa kwa pay bill, unaendanga ukijisote na mouth mask.
Hata unalipa mapema, anticipated. Inaitwa anticipated bail.
Baadaye tena ukopa pesa huko na tuko na pesa hapa kwa mfuko.
Asante sana. Thank you. Ali ni Standard Donation, niambia alikuaje mahali ulipo. Nambari ni 07798010 au 07798010. Piga simu tuambie mahali uliko. Ali ni vipi? Kuna Mkenya pale Ondieki anatoka Sotika amesema tafadhali polisi mtusaidie.
Kenyan.
Wanataka till number ya hongo. Wanasema wamechoka bwana. Kulipa hongo kwa polisi kwa sababu ya mask. Kama wewe ni karao, nimeona kuna makru hapo ya Kisii. Tafadhali, kama wewe ni crew tafadhali wacha kujonga wananchi bwana kwa sababu ya mask. Anasema wanataka till number. Ali tulipo sasa ni State of the Nation. State of the Nation unaweza kutupigia simu tuambie mahali ulipo. Ali koje, nambari ni 07798010 au 07798010. Nambari iko pale kwenye comment section, unaweza kupiga simu alafu tuambie mahali ulipo, hali ikoje. Tunaenda kufunga kwa dakika 5 ambazo zinakuja, tutafunga hiyo section alafu tuingie kwenye kazi haraka upesi. Habari ni 77810. Kama kawaida, hii ni Siasa Wednesday. Tuko na Governor P Mushendu kutoka Kiambu. Anasema aliruka, unajua kuna mtu alisema unaruka nini unakanyaga nini. Sasa sitaki kusema kwenye studio, lakini nitasema jumping from the frying pan to the fire. Sasa watu wa Kiambu. Tuko pia na Dennis Ndumbi ambaye pia ni expert wa kisiasa. Tuambie mambo kunaendaje kwenye siasa. Mwana barua tu jamani, ka barua kwa Jubilee, kwa Register of Political Parties kusema kwamba hao na UDA hawana ndoa hata kidogo, divorce. Alafu tuko na mheshimiwa Ruth Mbogo ambaye ameanza kuchelewa kazi na kazi ijaanza. Tuambie ulala barabarani wapi? Wewe ukai mtu ulala barabara. Do you know? We know the people. Jambo kaka.
Bwana Vitok.
Yes sir, how are you?
Ondieka amefanya niamuke bwana.
Wamesema wanataka till number bwana.
Ondieka amefanya niamuke kwa sababu he is saying the truth. This is, I mean, it's funny but it's very sad.
Kwetu wanasema kicheko na kifo zinafanana, haziko mbali sana. Sasa hii ni kicheko ya kilio.
Yeah. That was very funny. Yeah.
Tuambie kaka, habari ya diaspora?
Diaspora iko poa.
Hata nyinyi mlala barabarani ama mnafikanga nyumbani?
Sisi tunafika nyumbani, hakuna mtu anakuuliza. You can move, you can go. Ukiona polisi unavaa mask, unapita.
Alafu unangoa.
Maisha inaendelea. Yeah.
So kwani bado unavaa mask pia?
No, sisi mandate iliisha about 2 weeks the other week. But still ukienda kwa businesses bado unavaa mask. So
okay.
But it's not a mask on the public. It's no longer a mandate. But anyway, mimi ile kitu nilikuwa nataka kuambia Wakenya, inaonekana sasa kila mtu amekuwa illegal. Mshendu wewe na Joe ulichukua inaitwa nini ile namba mpya ile inaitwa paybill number ama inaitwa nini huduma number.
Lakini yote ni paybill kwa sababu tulikuwa tunachangia watu wa serikali.
Ndio hiyo. Sasa hiyo huduma namba, huyu judge atakuja kudeclare ni illegal. Kama Mshendu alitupa kipande yake ile ya zamani, unajua ile ilikuwa kubwa kama floppy disk. Kama alitupa hiyo, he is no longer Kenyan anymore.
Harama bana.
Kenya hii bwana ni sinema tupu. Kenya hii ni sinema tupu kaka.
Yeah. But I'm enjoying the show.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy show. I just wanted to call in and say Ondieka did make my day.
Asante sana. So tafadhali weka kitu kwa paybill, mimi ndio nitasaidia kupea askari. Mnaweza nitumia direct alafu. Asante sana, usiondoke, endelea kukaa pale kwenye broadcast tuzungumza pamoja.
Okay.
Asante. Umesikia wananchi wanasema wanataka paybill ya hongo. Wamesema wamechoka. Wamesema wamechoka kufinya Kenyatta kwa mkono. Wamesema wanataka baby. Kenyatta hayuko.
Siku hizi ni KICC. Amboseli.
Mshendu. Haya tumefunga State of the Nation, tutaenda kufungua bunge la mwananchi tukifika masaa ya saa 3 pale tutafungua bunge la mwananchi ili uweze kuchangia mazungumzo ambayo yatakuwa yanaendelea, mjadala ambayo itakuwa inaendelea kwa wakati huo. Lakini kwa sasa State of the Nation tumeifunga, tunaingia kwenye mjadala, tutaingia saa 3 kamili tufungue bunge la mwananchi. Haya Mshendu.
I just want to I was saying hi to everyone who is watching and thank them for continued support they have given this show. We know things are very tough.
Sure.
I don't know whether you saw the photos taken by a Nation Media Group photographer yesterday night. I was fortunate enough to witness what Kenyans are going through every day in this Nairobi. Somebody queues at 5 for a bus to go home. And the first bus that comes within his or her vicinity is around 7:30. And you have to do a drive of about 1 hour to get home. Then somebody sitting somewhere in a position of power has the audacity to say that whoever has beaten the curfew time is a drunk, is a KRS Kenyan. You go ahead to barricade a national highway with absolutely no reasoning, with absolutely no backing on why you are doing that. And you end up jeopardizing the life of Kenyans who are waking every day. Because let me tell you, Bitok, in this curfew season, so many businesses have closed down. The few that are remaining, they have to do what we call maximum production to stay afloat. That subsequently meaning that a Kenyan employed by a Muhindi in Nairobi has possibly have to work up to 5. He cannot be given permission to leave earlier than 5. And also means that within 5 p.m., when all the companies are releasing their employees, there is an influx of people in the street waiting to go home. We do not have enough. Before Corona, we did not have enough matatus to service Nairobi commuters.
Yes.
After Corona came, we reduced the number of those each matatu is supposed to carry. So I think for me, we are dealing with a government that is so insensitive to the needs of people. Because when I queue at archives waiting for a bus to go to Kikuyu for 1.5 hours, it is just crazy. Then I get a bus that will get me home by the time curfew has hit. And you have an insensitive police force that is actually clobbering Kenyans in those lorries. In fact, I've watched how the police have dealt with curfew in Nairobi. And I think they are doing more harm to Kenyans than good, if you ask me. When you crop up 30 Kenyans in a small FSR lorry, they don't have masks because you have cropped them down. They don't do social distancing. You are dealing with even, you see what the Ministry of Health has been doing called contact tracing. You cannot even be able to do contact tracing kwa sababu ulipatana na Bitok hujui alienda wapi, labda ni alikuachia virus, you know. So I think for me, the way the National Police Service is handling the curfew, it is actually propagating and creating more avenues and opportunities for that virus to spread. So I think we need to rethink. We need to take 2 steps back and think on how to deal with. Number one, we accept there are rogue Kenyans who will break the curfew time just for the fun of it. But then there are Kenyans who are struggling every day to wake up to make ends meet and to get home in time. But unfortunately, seasons and time do not favor them to get home in time. So the National Police Service needs to sit down and rethink on how to do it.
Okay. Haya, Dennis Ndumbi, jambo and welcome back.
Jambo.
Makaribisho wamesema karibu.
I'm absolutely happy.
Hapa ni mahali Amunyongwe, nasikia kuna nyongo mahali pengine. Ni wapi ndio kuna nyongo, lakini nimesikia hivyo. Wananchi wamesemaje? Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Say hi to wananchi.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe wananchi, na nimefurahi kuwaona na watch comments hapa. I have missed the tackle and the tacklers, and indeed the show has grown in leaps and bounds, and we thank God for that.
Hallelujah.
Na kama show ina grow inamaanisha
hata ungekuja na mbuzi, naona kuna watu wanaenda na mbuzi, kwani hujaleta mbuzi huko?
Mbuzi itakuja. Unajua bado nailisha nyasi. Unajua mtu kama Biwot lazima aletewe ile iko na ile nyuma nono.
Ile sio kuletewa kitu kama ilipelekewa Raila Odinga na gavana wetu wa Kiambu.
Imagine hiyo ilikuwa
hiyo ni madhara.
I want to put a disclaimer.
Hiyo ni madhara.
I just want to put a disclaimer to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, who maybe we don't share a political platform and ideas, but we do respect him. And I want to put a disclaimer that Kiambu can do better than that.
You've distanced yourself from the goat.
Yes, Kiambu has better than that.
Unajua vile
So it
nauliza
was a
kwa hii-
disgrace for our
Ngoja kidogo,
governor.
governor.
Take that kind of
According to the traditions of where I come from, kuna kiwango ya mbuzi na kuna kiwango ya ndegwa,
the one.
ng'ombe ya kiume,
Yes.
ile ambayo inatawala mtaa.
Yes.
Can you take to the president of the Republic of Kenya 2 goats?
No.
Exactly.
You can't.
It's illegal. It's
Yes.
not allowed.
It's
a
untraditional.
It's a traditional insult at the
Yes.
end of the day.
Mumekataa.
So tunaomba watu wache madharau ndogo ndogo kwa
And we as Kiambu
baba.
residents,
Kwa
we
baba.
as Kiambu residents and by Raj from the Mount Kenya region, we disassociate ourselves
You dissociate.
kwa
Yes.
baba, kwa baba. Sasa
From the goat.
from those good presented by our
Haya, mpe
governor.
nafasi,
Wanafanya
mpe nafasi.
baba
mbili.
anakaa.
It was an insult.
hata na Nairobi pia niliona DG alipeleka
Akapeleka mbuzi.
mbuzi.
Now it's the mbuzi
He's
season.
learning very fast. He's learning the politics of the country.
But,
Wanawake
shying away from
wanawake siku hizi na wakacha wameanza kupeana mbuzi kwa wazee.
hapo pia
Wazee.
kuna kizungumkuti.
Kuna kizungumkuti. Haya,
Kuna kizungumkuti.
Ndombi.
Sasa ningependa kwanza kushukuru Mungu kwa uhai, kwa sababu the last time wenzangu wawili walikuwa na engage na mambo ya kanisa hapa nilikuwa na wa engage kutoka health facility
Oh, really?
kama nimevaa oxygen,
Wow.
you know.
Sorry.
Nimeona jamaa ameandika hapo, ambia Dennis atoe mask. Safari zetu zote ni tofauti. Mimi nimelearn kwamba si lazima polisi aniambie ni sanitize ama ni social distance ama ni wear mask. This is a personal mandate. Because let me tell you something. When this thing arrives, and not because and sometimes it's absolutely not because of your carelessness.
Yeah.
COVID arrived in my home from the school.
Wow.
My boys. And I think we didn't know it perhaps up until maybe day 5 or thereabout. And my 2 sons and my wife tested positive.
Wow.
I tested negative. And then after 7 days or thereabout, I tested positive with a high viral load.
Wait.
And you are not sick.
No, by the way, I didn't have these classic symptoms of the first wave. I'm saying the first wave because we seem to have various variants in the country. Of course, by the very basic fact that our ports have been open to all these variants and diseases from the very first time. So I had very strange symptoms, and I know we have various variants, and not just various variants. We have double mutants, variants that have married together and produced something.
They're having a
crazy.
relationship.
You know, they're having a relationship. It's a terrible affair. I had diarrhea, I had vomiting, I had whatever it is that there is. I didn't have the classic symptoms of coughing, temperature rise, and a sore throat or whatever it is. If you checked me at any point of entry, you would have disqualified me from carrying corona. So the last time my colleagues here were engaging on that very subject, and I was engaging them, I was at a hospital bed.
Paul, you are close to Jesus.
And I was. It was very serious. My
Closer to
chest,
thee, my Lord.
my chest had about a 40% damage. And the way it creeps, the disease is so brutal that in 5 days anything can happen. And that's the reason why you hear someone is admitted or they're unwell, and then without
Suddenly,
knowing, you hear that they've left, because of the kind of brutality that the disease is coming from. Also, there is a very serious financial obligation that comes with COVID.
Crazy, yeah.
First of all, you need to know that insurance companies are not taking up claims. That this is from your pocket entirely.
Yeah.
Coming from a backdrop of where companies and businesses have closed and families are struggling with livelihood. So if you're going to be in a normal ward, you need your 500K. If you're going to be in HDU, you must have your $1 million plus.
Wow.
If you're going to be in ICU, you'd better be well oiled. And access means that you're properly funded at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
It's a very expensive affair, you know. And God forbid that anyone should get sick of COVID and you don't know the kind of direction. You don't know which variant you have.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it turns out to be different for different people. So what I tell Kenyans is that is absolutely important and vital that you know that the mandate is for you and you take care of yourself. It has nothing to do with anybody whatsoever. The most unfortunate thing is that the government has left us to the ravages of this COVID, you know. Yet the most fundraising that has been done has been for COVID funds at the end of the day. You understand? Yeah. Gerald, today I have I had 4 COVID patients in the house. This is medication of whatever nature that you can get to fight, because this thing you fight it with everything you have. Lakini kitu muhimu sana ni maombi. Dawa ya kienyeji, dawa hizi ukikuwa admitted is different. The financial obligation for COVID is insane at the end of the day. And you will not get any help kama mwananchi kutoka serikali unless God intervenes. So take this obligation as your personal obligation that you have the duty to protect your life. You know, at the end of the day, somewhere within the organizations of polity and organizing ourselves into community that are able, we left the aspect of health and protection to the government. At the end of the day, there were certain rights that we didn't give up. The right to have my properties, family, life, and XYZ. Some of those things we seconded them to the government. But at the end of the day, you get to know that it is you and God when a lot of these things happen. So protect yourself, take care of yourself, and at the end of the day, you have the duty to ensure that you protect your loved ones. Something strange about COVID is that one of my sons had a high viral load. He never coughed, he never sneezed, there was no sore throat, there was absolutely no symptoms whatsoever. You understand? So if you get those kids when they are going to school and when they are socializing next and close to your parents or senior citizens, that's a serious time bomb that you live to regret. So we have to adjust our lives in a way that we protect each other. We have to adjust our lives in the way that unfortunately we don't get in the talons and the unfortunate circumstances that COVID is bringing our way. But most importantly, this thing is spiritual. We have to fight it with everything we have, every spiritual capital we have. So I want to say that I'm very grateful that God saved me, and I'm here, speaking to Wananchi again, and interacting with my colleagues and articulating matters of the nation. It's a second chance that God has given me. So I'm very grateful.
We thank God for you, bana. Unajua saa hizi watu wanaenda. I have a friend actually who got sick. Alikuwa tu sawa. Okay. In 3 days, bana, the girl was gone.
Yeah, it's very violent.
Very sad. Pole sana Dennis. And I hope the family has recovered fully.
Yes.
And we also pray
that's
for
why you see us wearing masks, because we need to is the journey, by the way.
The experience.
COVID is not the recovery journey is slow.
Okay.
And sure.
Yeah.
Because for example, I had 40% damage on my lungs. So you don't want to sniff another variant. You know, my lungs are properly healed now. But you know, you have to understand that I lost almost about 15 kilos plus. You know, so you're going slow but sure. You know, some people, the doctors was telling me they recover after 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. You know, some guys are called long hauliers. You understand? So some people have been sick for a year. Sometimes it takes a long stretch for somebody even to turn negative, because the tests are still picking the dead virus and the dead debris. By the time they return back to work, Bitok and my colleagues, it's a year after. That family has been ravaged emotionally, spiritually, and economically,
and financially.
You understand?
Yes.
The recovery is going to be so difficult, because there's another thing that is emerging. You know, there's stigma and trauma against guys who have been infected by COVID. At the end of the day, them getting back to work and socializing, even from a family context, is becoming something somewhat hard. So the same way we dealt with stigma from other infectious diseases, is the same way that we need to do to know that we need to rationalize the workspaces, and organizations need to come with a back to work formula with a lot of the COVID patients.
All right. Mheshimiwa, Vika, kwanza omba wapiga kura msamaha. Bure kitu utaonea view sasa.
I do apologize that I came late. It was due to circumstances that were beyond my control. And I actually...
Unalala barabara gani?
Barabara ya Mombasa Road ni mbaya saa hii. Unalala huko, unalala tu mpaka asubuhi.
Kwa hiyo kutembelea Jinku.
So
that's good to see.
Lakini unajua pale Mombasa Road kuna 5-star hotels.
Ndio nasema sasa.
My friend. Mimi nimela nyasi. So I mean I'm just listening to Dennis, and I commiserate with his challenges that he's gone through with COVID. I got COVID last year. Yes, I did. I got COVID last year at the beginning of the COVID, not really at the beginning, but
COVID-1.
No, it was COVID-2. I don't know if it was COVID-2. Yes, I got COVID-2. I got COVID-2 in September last year. And I'll be very honest with you and tell you where I got it from. I got COVID-2 in September last year. We had gone for, I'm a member of a movement called Mulembe Youth Movement. We had started our activities. We launched the movement last year in July. June, we officially launched it in June. We did a soft launch in June in Nairobi, and then we did a proper launch in Kakamega in July. So in September, we were having a function in Vihiga County where we were going to address the Vihiga County people and all that. Then I remember our spokesperson, Senator Cleophas Malala was there and all that. We had all those people present, members of the movement present. So we went, I'll be very honest, and that's why for me, from that day henceforth, I stopped going to social gathering places, especially clubs and all that, because we had a place where we went to just to hang out after the event in Vihiga, just to catch up with friends. And I came back to Nairobi, and next thing I know, I had lost my sense of taste and smell. And of course, you know that at this particular period of time, when you lose your sense of taste and smell, there's nothing else other than COVID that you do have. So I lost my sense of taste and smell for 2 weeks. I am, unlike Dennis, I was lucky enough to, I don't know whether it was my immunity or whether it was the strain of COVID that I got, but the only thing I got was loss of sense of taste and smell, nothing else. So, I mean, and COVID affects people in different ways. Yesterday, I had a friend of mine call me. She's been a good friend. We've been friends since university days, since my CPA days at Strathmore University. Jill Omire. So she called me and she's like, it's been such a long period of time. We've not caught up, Nini. So she's just checking up on me to find out how I am doing. So I tell her, niko sawa, Nini. Then she tells me, sisi familia yetu tumekuwa wagonjwa since January this year. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean by tumekuwa wagonjwa since January this year? She tells me that COVID imekuwa tu ikizunguka ndani ya familia. Literally. They are not at a huge family, but one person gets it, the other one gets it, mwingine anapona, akishapona anapatia mwingine, ule mwingine akipona anarudi kupatia mwenye alishapona. So it's, that ka song for Nairobi, yule anakupea
Nairobi, yeah.
That ka song for Nairobi, yule anakupea pia ananipea. Literally, that was happening in their family, where one person heals, gives it to the next person. And you see, they were now, as a family, the thing about COVID is that as a family, you can't literally separate. You can't now decide to say that, we will hire for you a new house. I mean, life is very difficult right now. People are suffering. Kenyans are going through a lot. People don't have money. So you can't start saying that, if one person is sick in the family, we will go and hire for them a house somewhere, or we will take them to a hospital somewhere. Most Kenyans cannot afford healthcare as we speak right now. I recently had a meeting with a governor from the Western region, and the governor was talking to me and sharing the frustrations that governors have right now, where they were saying, and by the way, this has totally informed I would say my change of how I was looking at this whole COVID situation and how I was viewing the government, especially the Ministry of Health, when it comes to matters COVID. And he was sharing the frustrations governors are going through and saying that government has raised over 256 billion Kenya shillings for COVID management across the country, but counties have not received. Literally, he was saying that if they have received anything, it is peanuts, and they literally have not received. Pretty much what he was saying is that they have not received anything from this money that government has purportedly raised to manage COVID-19. So I asked him, so what do you mean? And he said that in his own county, I will not mention which county, but it is one of the Western region counties, very recent meeting. He said that in his own county, Bitok, that what is happening is that he has to hire big 5-star hotels or even 4-star hotels, 3-star hotels, 2-star hotels for nurses to stay in these hotels whenever they contract COVID. Remember, they are fast responders, meaning that they are on the front line for contracting COVID-19 by virtue of dealing with patients who are sick by COVID-19, patients, COVID-19 patients. So they're in the front line to contract the disease. So a lot of them get sick, and because they are nurses who are hired from across the country, they don't live in his county. Most of them don't live in his county. So they have to be, and those who live in his county cannot be allowed to go back home for the risk of them doing what? Transferring the disease to their family members. So most of these nurses are now being basically housed in 2-star hotels, 3-star hotels, 5-star hotels. So he says, as a governor with 10 million shillings, you spend 10 million shillings in 2 weeks housing nurses in 2-star hotels, 3-star hotels, because you don't want these nurses to go back at home and infect their relatives and then increase the capacity of patients within your hospital who have COVID-19, and you don't have funds to be able to manage the COVID-19 situation in your county. So this genuinely opened my eyes to the reality that what is happening across the country is actually very serious, and that the government needs to go back to the drawing board. The Ministry of Health needs to go back to the drawing board, and not just the Ministry of Health, but the president needs to sit down, if not fire these people who are at the helm of the Ministry of Health, give us answers as to how these monies that we keep hearing are being raised for the management of COVID-19 are being spent and are being used. So to be honest, I think as a country, especially when it comes to matters of COVID-19 management, we still have a long way to go. I have articulated this in forums before. I know guys 2 weeks ago were very angry at me and saying that, oh, I probably don't live in the same country as them. But the truth of the matter is that COVID-19, on questions of debt and borrowing of money, those are two different issues. But COVID-19 management, I've always been particular, and I have said that a lot more needs to be done when it comes to matters management of COVID-19. A lot more needs to be done when it comes to issues of ensuring that county governments have upped their facilities. Even the last time when people were complaining and saying, oh, I'm not living in the same country, I mentioned that in Vihiga County, if COVID-19 were to hit today, my friend Gerald Bitok, tutaisha hatujajipanga. There are no hospital, we don't have proper ICU facilities. Forget about counties that are complaining about having minimum or minimal gas tanks. Vihiga County haina chochote. If COVID-19 was to hit today, I don't know where we would be as a county, and I'm thinking that other counties are facing the same predicament. So serious questions need to be asked, such as, where is this money going to? Has this money been dispatched to county governments? When governors are complaining, for example, I might have faulted Governor Oparanya when he said that BBI money probably needs to be channeled to COVID-19 management. Maybe it's the same predicament he's facing as a governor, because the governor I spoke to told me his county, he is wondering what can he do. And you know, the people are complaining, the people are wondering, Governor, what are you doing? And the governor is asking himself, what do I tell these people? And yet there's no money coming from this 256 billion shillings to my own county.
Right. So finally you agree that the money being borrowed is being misused?
No, the borrowing
you
money.
You also agree that BBI money should go into COVID?
To stabilize the economy, and there's borrowing money for COVID-19.
Stabilize the economy from the thieves. Anyway, let's
but you see,
at the risk of diverting, you know, that is.
I want to rejoin on something that you said.
I also wanted to rejoin.
3 minutes. So 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's basically based on what she said.
Very quickly.
You know, she's given an example of this family that has been unwell from January. One of the things that we need to know is that there was a first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. They have all unique characteristics. For example, both first and second wave, you didn't hear the government complain about the crisis that they have on oxygen. And one of the reasons is because of what I mentioned before, is that you remember, Gerald, that when we were dealing with the first cases, we had the variant that came from China. Then after a while, it was reported that the UK had a certain dangerous variant and South Africa and the rest and others that we didn't know. But we never shut our borders, at the end of the day. There were no direct measures to ensure that these variants don't make an entry to the country. And also there are no studies asking what are the symptoms of these variants, what is the fatality percentage and all that. What is it that we need to do to ensure that even though we know for sure that no measures have been put in place to ensure that this variant doesn't access, what kind of danger to our citizens are we talking about? Let me tell you something. This third wave, I said it has various variants. You don't even know which one hits you. And it has a double mutant at the end of the day. When it came to the decision that I had to be admitted, we went to Coptic hospitals and others. There were no beds. Zero, completely. Even ambulances, some of them are not willing to take you up because they don't want the risk to their drivers and stuff of the sort. And they made calls and there was absolutely nothing. There's a hospital that agreed to take me up. And we went there, and it's within the CBD. And I'm telling you, after every 5 minutes, there was an ambulance blaring. Not to forget the fact that when you hear an ambulance, it's somebody who is
critically ill.
Is critical ill, but he's well to do. What about those ones who can't afford ambulance services at the end of the day? You understand? Day number 3, in that facility, oxygen finished. The greatest demand of this third wave and these variants that we're dealing with is oxygen. Because it has a certain uncanny ability to hit the chest without coughing, without all those whatever. You understand? So, there is the place for kienyeji medicine, and you have to take that. You understand? But at the end of the day, when it comes to assisting your chest to recover from this thing, you don't know which variants you would have and the need for oxygen. And we have a crisis, and which medical care you'd want, and whether you have money on standby for this thing. So again, us trying to call the government is futile at this particular point. You understand? They have shown a certain ability. We are there. So, Mwananchi, and you tackler who's listening, this burden is squarely to you. Not to forget that when you get unwell, a gentleman knocked at my gate when I was from hospital, and he said, I don't know this place. I have just landed here because I got sick 3 weeks ago. Mimi mtu wa mjengo, siwezi fanya kazi, naomba chakula. And I told my wife, go to the kitchen and get some food for this guy. I asked him, how are you feeling and stuff of the sort. And then the guy said, I feel like malaria, and I sense this guy possibly has COVID. And we gave him some food. You understand? Huyu ni mtu wa mjengo. He's relying on the wages that he gets every day. There is no way on earth, Gerald, that person can afford the medication for COVID. So take care of yourself.
Sawa. Mshendo.
I just wanted to
microphone ya Mshendo usisikie.
Yes, I just wanted to actually tell the women there is that connection between taking that loan and COVID, because one, every money we are receiving from IMF, it is for COVID management.
Correct.
There is no shortcut about that. And since you have seen and you have admitted that there are things that this government should have done and have not done, we cannot run away from the fact that money taken from IMF and other institutions to manage COVID has been mismanaged. I come here and I always critic the county government of Kiambu. But I'll tell you something the county government of Kiambu has done so many counties have failed to do. I'm sure you have not heard that there is a problem of oxygen anywhere in Kiambu. Because what the CC, Dr. Murega, and the COH, Dr. Nyaga did, they decided to procure a big oxygen tank, pipe oxygen to everybody, to every bed in Kiambu County. And I think that is the difference between what the national government is doing and what other counties are doing. Because I would say there was no magic in bringing a big oxygen tank and put them outside the hospital, then put the oxygen to every bed in the hospital, in Tigoni, in Kiambu, in Thika, in Gatondo, and everywhere.
But there were no technicians in Nakuru. We lost like 30 patients who were on oxygen.
And this is what I'm saying, Nani, Dennis, and you'll agree with me. This country has terribly failed in investing in medical engineering. Because some of these things require medical engineers to come and do it. If it is about ICUs, you require technicians to operate these things. So I think for me, as you have every put it, Kenyans, you are on your own. Make sure you take care of yourself. Today, a friend of mine called Joe Hamisi is a county ward administrator in Kikuyu. We are raising 2.5 million shillings to offset his bill from Nakuru PGH hospital.
And that's a county hospital.
That's a county
That's
hospital.
not even a private
It's
one.
not even a private hospital, my friend. Today Bitok, after here we are heading to rest. Mr. and Mrs. Morioki, a father and two of my friends, the father died on Sunday, the mother died on Wednesday. We are laying them to rest. COVID. And they have, it is only that those young men have been able to do well. They are able to offset the bills in their millions within those people. Now, I want to imagine someone who is a Mjengo person, like you have said. And I think as much as the government is clobbering people like left and center, it is also a carnal responsibility of every Kenyan to take himself. I've seen somebody asking why some of us are not wearing masks in this studio. I want to actually tell them that this studio, the Taco Studio, has adhered
spacious
to the COVID
Some fumigation,
sanitizer
iko hapa, sanitize Mujendo.
As you can see, we do this. And I understand when Dennis is not removing his mask because our experiences are not the same.
Because I'm still very
and it is good to have experienced that and you exercise that caution. So people be rest assured this studio adheres to COVID protocols. All the necessary equipment. These microphones are sanitized. I come and I pick my own microphone and I put it here because we adhere to. But Kenyans, wacha kugoja polisi bana, wacha kugoja polisi ya kuambia uvae mask, akuambia usanitize. Please, vaa mask.
Okay.
Vaa mask.
Hi, tukisonga, DCI yesterday they came in their defense after an expose was done by Citizen TV and they're saying hata mungetuambia tufanye pamoja. Hii kitu dangerous. This thing is very dangerous. Mungetuambia tufanye pamoja. I don't know, you've worked in security.
In fact, I want to hear his views on that.
You've been in security.
I want to hear his views.
But now, very briefly, what do you think about that thing?
Gerald, that's a very good question. So Kenya has been on the spot on the issue of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And it's a known fact by practitioners across the board. There are several reports by organizations, mostly outside the country, because our political and security situation does not allow researchers internally to do in-depth analysis, because as Mr. Kinoti said, it's very dangerous. Dangerous on the fact that the cops themselves find it illegal to investigate a lot of these things. So, for example, if I'm doing my PhD and I want to do a thesis or a dissertation on proliferation of small arms and light weapons, and I go to his office and I say, I want your help. You understand? Whether the police, are aiding in cross-border illegalism on this matter, maybe I might not get a lot of help. If I decide to embark on it alone, I am bound to encounter criminal activities and many of those. So it is a known fact, even if this matter is being carried by criminals, it at the end of the day, the jurisdiction on ensuring that kind of trade and illegalism does not thrive in this country rests squarely on the office of the IG and the DCI. You know, they are charged to ensure that such occurrences, even if it is one gun, it doesn't happen in the country. There's the other concept that, you know, they are arguing on board and saying the sample set is too low. One gun which doesn't have the serial numbers of police at the end of the day, several bullets and a uniform here and there do not equal to the criminalization and the condemnation of the entire force. Maybe you should bring for us a lorry. Wow. Then we shall believe that the police force is corrupt.
So one arm is not,
you know,
is not harmful.
one AK-47 that looks like it was procured in Pokot by criminal activities that came from 600 kilometers away. One set of uniform from KPs, Kenya Police, and another one from APs does not equal to say that the entire police force is engaging in criminal activities and their KDF thereabout. You see, KDF hasn't issued any statement thereabout. But I think the most important path that we must embark is, first of all, to accept a few of these facts that we have criminal elements within us. And to also accept as a nation that the journey that we're embarking on is that one of police reforms. And police reforms is in many fronts. One of the fronts is to ensure that the organization itself is independent. And the organization itself moves from a force to a service. You understand? That it is there to serve the common Kenyan, you know, at the end of the day. The third one is to ensure that the organization that is the force does not entertain or harbor criminal activities, ventures, or police who are engaged in criminal activities thereabout. Some of the issues that the Citizen TV expose brought on board are very serious, damning and scary, you know, facts. You understand? The fact that I can walk to the GSU gate and I'm not even pronounced, I'm not even whatever, and buy bullets from the gate is absolutely worrying. You understand?
Yes.
The lack of a clear policy in terms of a procuring of uniform or whatever it is. You understand? The fact that I don't know whether it's an institutional capacity issue that every AP officer can take their gun home at the end of, and that's the reason why you're seeing a lot of these home feuds are being settled by guns. You understand? Yeah. I can take my gun home at the end of the day. I believe that from this expose, the police force must admit several shortfalls. These several shortfalls must be included in the police reforms agenda. And from there, I believe there's an opportunity to change certain policies and dynamics. Certain operational dynamics will need to be enhanced to ensure that if you're a police and you're off service, you have no business carrying an arm. You know, at the end of the day, to ensure that there's consistent audit of whether we are meeting the right threshold in terms of making sure that the proliferation of small arms and light weapons are not procured in the country. The other day we saw a hoard up here in Ngong Road that had been procured by some civilians. Those ones cannot be in this country without the knowledge of one police officer or thereabout. You understand? So we sometimes refusing to admit a problem is the problem. You understand? Sometimes wearing an armored jacket and saying this armored jacket can be able to take anything and we don't have any problems internally. And I think there's an opportunity, Gerald, to say that clearly we agree that we are on the path of reforms. We appreciate the Fourth Estate as our partners at the end of the day. Some of these issues that are raised, we are going to investigate them further to ensure where we are perforated and where we are broken as a police force. And thereafter, we will fix it. We will change our policies on small arms and light weapons at the end of the day. Some operational orders are going to be twisted and thereabout. We will carry out a comprehensive audit to ensure that we don't have criminal activities within us.
We are the
at the end of the day, we are going to ensure we are going to ensure that we publish the audit out there. The other thing that we are going to do, we are going to bridge the gap between us and the wananchi. You understand? And let me tell you what, there's an analogy of sending a thief, using a thief to catch a thief. By the way, in developed nations, there are some times that cops collaborate with criminals to ensure that they vanquish the highest risk to the nation. We are struggling with terrorism. We are struggling with scenarios like, what it is that we call active shooter scenario. You understand? A guy with one gun, with that AK-47, can do extreme damage, to our securitization at the end of the day. That one AK-47, that small gun, the kind of damage they can do on the hands of even one or two criminals is immeasurable. Okay. So I think as a nation, the police force must qualify our risk and threat as a nation, and they must be able to bridge the gap between them and the citizens. Okay. So that those numbers that you should call, you should be able to give information. If you see a problem in Deia, you should not be threatened that you're going to be victimized because you reported something. But the disposition that Mr. Kinoti took is that of threatening any good-willing Kenyan who has information into saying that even you, we criminalize you for taking yourself into such a venture. And by the way, even though the issue of securitizing ourselves, we haven't fully given it to the nation, we have a prerogative as communities to arrange ourselves into some type of approved vigilantes that we're able to secure ourselves. Okay. And we're able to collaborate with the police force to ensure that we live in safe spaces.
Mushandu.
Yes.
The problem with the DCI is not that people can access guns. It is
he should be the deputy
DCI. Anataka kitu ni mbeki. So right, the DCI document by DCI was the document by DCI was, for me, I look at the story itself had some discrepancies and loopholes. If you're very keen on it, for instance, first of all, there's no guarantee that there was a police officer involved because they're all phone calls. You didn't say that. There's also the issue of time that it took. If you can take 2 years to access one gun, then but again, the argument by DCI was that it did not come from us. It's not the fact that a Kenyan can access arms, which is dangerous. It's that kutoka kwetu. Yani they want to prove to us that it did not come from the police system. Now, what's your feeling?
I have seen DCI say they are going to investigate a matter.
We leave no stones unturned.
That matter takes a lot of time to investigate. I'll give you an example. The president, and I was here Bitok when the president stood at the peripheries of State House and gave a declaration that DCI should investigate COVID matter and dispense it in 30 days. You remember?
Yes.
Something that has not happened, and I told you, we even took a bet that it will not go. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Now, as much I agree, and I will say this, that particular story had discrepancies. That is true. For someone who loves investigative journalism, I could see the loopholes. That notwithstanding, it is amazing how a report that was done a day before, Kinoti was able to do investigations very quickly, conclude, and actually call the media to come and crucify the journalist that was actually doing the story. I find it, and I think this is where the problem is. He may be right, he may be wrong, but the defensive mechanism approach he took on that interview, and I don't know whether people forget the rhetoric he was giving after reading the actual statement. I don't know whether people listened to his actual statement word for word. He was simply castigating the media and castigating Kenyans who actually came out to give their info.
They actually summoned, they have summoned the editors.
And I have also seen the Media Council has responded very well, and they have told them that they are the people who are under the microscope. They cannot purport to investigate themselves. And if indeed the journalists of Royal Media Services went and violated some rules, there are channels that the Kenya police should be using to actually have the media practitioners investigated. So I think for me the problem we have, and what Dennis has said that has come out clear of the rhetoric by Kinoti, it is that we are not building trust with our police force and our citizens. That instead of building capacity for citizens to actually interact with our security apparatus and report these things, we are actually putting a wedge between us and the Kenya police force. Because tomorrow, Dennis, which Kenyans will be bold enough to come forward and bring these cases? And let me tell you, one of the dailies, and when you are reviewing the newspaper, you're going to see it today. There is a story that is carried about the gangs that are operating in Nairobi and in Mombasa. And this town, we have about 15 or 16 major criminal gangs that are holding Nairobi at ransom. Most of them from just here in Kibra and everywhere. And the story has explained about how they are armed. They are actually militias that are armed with the same guns, the same police officers are using. So, as much as we want to poke holes on that story by KTN, one thing we cannot learn away from, Citizen, one thing we cannot learn away from Dennis is that gangs in this Nairobi.
Yes.
Let us not hide our face in the sand. Let's not hide the face. I may not know how they have gotten into the hearts of those criminals, but I'm telling you before God, zile guns ziko in Nairobi.
Ni mingi sana.
There are so many. That is the truth. And that is actually, that ought to have been the first admission by Kinoti, that it is true.
Yeah.
Illegal guns are in the illegal holders in Nairobi. And in fact, today, Dennis, research is showing that people who own guns without licenses outweigh those who have licenses in this Nairobi, including the police officers. That is a fact. Now, how those guns have gotten into those hands, now that is something now we can actually have a discussion about. But we agree that there are illegal guns in this Nairobi. And it is true. It is true. It is true. And the police can deny all they want. DCI can deny all he wants. But illegal guns are here. Today, Dennis, every major crime, every major theft. The other day in Kiambu, there's a creek that actually dug a tunnel from across was it the KCB bank, I think?
Yes, KCB bank.
Yes, they dug a tunnel.
Yes.
And they were removing that soil with the lorries and moving on. In the glare eyes of the police, that particular tunnel, Dennis, was being dug on this side of the road, and the police station is on the other side of the road.
Yes.
And it was being dug, and they were taking soil within a bank that had security that is armed. And my argument is this: there is no way, Bitok, these people would have done this for all those months they did it without the knowing of the security operators. Then, if the security operators did not know this was happening, then we have a problem with DCI, because it is for them to act on intelligence and everything. So I think what Kinoti ought to have done, Bitok, is first of all admit it is true. We have illegal guns all over Nairobi. Yes. And we are dealing with it. Now, as to whether they are coming from the police or not, if you ask me,
that's a very secondary
it was
question.
very premature.
Secondary question.
It was very premature for somebody called the DCI to come and call a press conference to discredit a report where you have not, because I was expecting, Dennis, if I was Kinoti, I would write to the Royal Media Services and tell them we have seen the piece you have done. We would love to have the information you have, so that we can ascertain the authenticity of that report. Then after we have done that, I can actually come now discredit having gone through what you have gone through. But you cannot stay on the other side of the road, call a press conference to discredit someone you have not attempted to understand. How did you get, what was the scoop of your investigation? How did you get to this point? Understand, let them make you understand. Before you shout on the media, let them know the holes, poke holes in their report without coming to bring the theatrics in the media. So I see what, I would say in a nutshell, what Kinoti was doing is grandstanding.
Okay. Haya, as we go through the mbogo, kwanza I want to apologize. We have spammers who are mutating here too fast. Ni kama COVID. Ndio kidogo una block huyu mwingine ametoka. Sasa sasa hii tuko mutation ya number 18. Ukinyonga huyu mwingine ametoka. Anyway, poleni sana. We'll keep blocking.
We want to appreciate the honorable Jimmy Gekwa from Kiambaa. He was the first one to notice the
yes, the spammers. Asante sana.
To notice the spammer. We really appreciate you.
Asante sana Kigwa. Really appreciate. Ana siku hizo mmekuwa marafiki na Mushendo, kama mlikuwa mnashakananga kama mawe ya kushanga billet. Anyway, Ruth Mbogo. Unajua na wewe ndio unakuanga mtetezi wa serikali. Mtetezi wa serikali.
Wa vijana na kina mama. No.
Si kama leo tatetea this year.
Let's be very honest Bitok. Usitupatie titles zenye sisi hatuna.
I
have always been a champion for the rights of young people and women for over 5 years now at my young age.
Kwanza niko na salamu hapa ya ambassador Alfred Sergeant. Amesema nikusalimie sana na anasema hako area.
Mwambie
area ni gani?
Wave atume wave.
Acheza na wave.
Na pia kuna rafiki yangu kutoka Vihiga anaitwa Josiah Katili. Anasema ambia huyu mrembo akujie strategy na pesa ya campaign.
Sema kimaumana.
Ambassador watu wapitie kwa wazee.
Umetakoliwa bwana. Sasa lakini mimi ndio nakaribisha wageni. Kwa hivyo tafadhali cheza na wave alafu nitasongesha. Umesalimiwa sana na Alfred Ambassador Sergeant kutoka Australia.
Asante sana. Mwambie cheza na wave. So I have always been a champion for the young people and women. And one of the things I remember last year I was, I think, on one of the media houses, and there was a topic that came up, or a discussion topic. This was in 2019, actually, not last year. A discussion topic that came up, Bitok, about how young people in Mombasa had been found, owning guns and all that, yeah? Forget about what governor was talking about in Nairobi. I am telling you, it's called proliferation of arms and guns in Kenya has gone on a top-notch, high level. Any young person who is in a criminal gang can easily access a gun very, very easily, by the way. And one thing we need to realize, and I know that the discussion was coming from a point of view of policemen being the ones supplying guns, but let me tell you something. There is a properly done or properly networked web of criminal gangs in this country that supplies guns to younger people to do all manner of criminal activities, run around this town terrorizing people with guns. So I would want to agree with Governor Mushendu that one of the things that we need to admit as a country, you cannot resolve. I like the fact that Dennis sort of talked about what measures they would put in place as a police force. But how I wish Kinoti spoke the way Dennis spoke. And that is why I was saying Dennis should probably become Kinoti's deputy,
Deputies wamenyimwa nguvu hii Kenya.
Achukue usukani Kinoti akitoka.
Deputy wamenyimwa nguvu hii Kenya.
Basically, Dennis achukue usukani.
He should be the DCI.
Achukue usukani baada ya DCI kuondoka. Because what I like about Dennis's submissions is that number one, he admits that there is a problem.
Yes.
When you don't admit that we do have a problem as a country,
then you cannot fix it.
If you can't admit that indeed there are arms, if you can't admit that people get killed every single day, gunshots, unasikia kila mahali mtu ameamka asubuhi in an area, people have been shot. The truth of the matter is that very rarely is it the police killing these people. It is criminal gangs killing these people. And when people are being murdered using guns, hao ni majambazi. And the truth of the matter is that what Kinoti should have done was should have admitted, first of all, he shouldn't have reacted immediately. I agree with Governor. He should have held his independent investigations. Maybe the immediate reaction he should have done was to say that we are going to hold investigations to see whether the claims are true or false. You cannot dismiss claims if you have not done your investigations. So they should have done their investigations first and come back to us with a proper, not just a media rant, but with a proper report stating that indeed this and this is not true. This part of the allegations are true, and this is what we will decide to do as a police force. And what I would like to advise the young people once again is that shortcuts kwa maisha hazipeleki mtu popote.
Mwashana nayo.
Young people need to trust the process. that yes, you are a graduate and yes, there are no jobs. I understand there are no jobs, that the business environment is becoming tighter and tighter and more difficult for young people to sustain businesses, but trust the process. Bitok, we are all, me and you, I don't know about Bitok, Shendu and governor and Dennis, but I would want to believe that if we are not youth, we are youthful. Me and you
young at heart, like
young
Baba.
at heart, you know.
When Baba is saying, sisi kama vijana.
You and I can almost guarantee that you and I are youth. I think Dennis and Mushendu are youthful, or they are youth. They have not spoken about their age. Maybe Dennis is insisting he's youth. I don't know.
I don't have any gray.
Niko kwa roho.
I don't know where this
Ujana ni roho.
Niko karibu for
the problem is that Ruth is judging us.
I'm not judging you
based on
no, that's why no, but you see
the wealth
Dennis,
that we hold
listen to
in
me.
our hands, which is
Also
clean.
you have wealth. Simunigawie kidogo ya campaigns. So Bitok, what I was just getting to, the point I was getting to is that the young people need to trust the process of life, where you admit to yourself that here is where I am as a 22, 23, 27, 30, 35 year old young man or young woman, and that these are the avenues I can access to make money, and let me just trust the process. Hata kama ni kuuza hiyo njugu utauza, sell it pole pole. You never know where you will go to the next time. I'll give a story of a gentleman, by the way, and this will take me back to some of my qualifications. You know, Vihiga County naonanga watu wakicheza na mimi sana wakisema, oh, I am not qualified to vie for women rep, I am a novice, at mimi sijui leadership. I will just give an example of a young man I met when I was a student leader at Strathmore University, running an education fund initiative called Elimisha Stratizen. Elimisha Stratizen was basically a fund where students would contribute money towards a kitty to assist fellow students who are unable to access education because of poverty or other reasons, who are unable to complete their degrees or access education at Strathmore. So that is a project that I successfully ran. Within a year of being a student council leader, we raised close to 1 million shillings. We assisted, I will say we, but I will be honest, majority of the work was done by me because the project was under my care. So I raised close to 1 million shillings and assisted over 50 students with bursaries and little monies to help them complete their education. So when I was one time I remember I was addressing first year students. I think that was in 2014 as a student leader. And as a certain gentleman was following what I was addressing, the address I was giving to the students. He was being admitted as a CPA, I think as a CPA or BBIT student. And he reached out to me on Twitter and he said, "Hi Ruth, I saw you, I was in the forum when you were talking to young people. I need your assistance with school fees." And I remember sitting down with him and he really reached out to me, persistently reached out to me. He's called Alex. So this Alex guy consistently reached out, and I noticed his messages. I gave him my number and I told him, let's meet at the student cafeteria and have a conversation. And the gentleman was telling me, "Ruth, I'm just a young boy from a very humble family. In fact, I have been hawking sweets in Nairobi to raise my school fees. If you can give me this Elimisha Stratizen bursary, I promise that I will work very hard and get my degree done and become a respectable person in the society, get my job." Basically, he was fighting for a chance for him to educate himself. But do you hear the story I gave you? Yes. He had just come from the streets of Nairobi hawking sweets. Na ikukua story ya uongo. Gerald Bitok, I gave that student bursaries mpaka akamaliza masomo. As we speak right now, Alex is one of the best brains, not at Strathmore University, but in the country in matters cyber security and all those things about cyber security and mambo ya technology. He's one of the sharpest brains that are rising in the country. Okay. And as I see it, he is actually gonna be one of the leading brains continentally when it comes to matters cyber security, continentally, the entire Africa. This is just a young man who was hawking sweets, telling himself that I am hoping that tomorrow, like Sauti Sol wanasemanga, that their brighter days are yet to come. Right. That I am hoping that brighter days are yet to come. Young people, I tell you, there is no joy in wanting to have an easy life. There is no joy in wanting to have shortcuts to life. Trust the process.
Right. Yesterday the court rule tuko na dakika kidogo sana. It's already
on this matter because it's a heavy matter.
Please.
First of all,
no, dakika moja.
Okay, dakika moja. First of all, I'd want us to acknowledge this problem as a Kenyan problem. not as a police issue. Sometimes I think we expect too much from our police force, and we have to empathize.
And they've given them less.
Yes. First of all, I think we have compounded issues that haven't been dealt with over time. And we have to deal with this matter in concert to ensure that we stabilize the crime efficacy in the country, and we make sure that we bring it down to a level that the police can handle it. We have to appreciate that these criminals are being generated from the family standpoint. The criminals are your brothers, your cousins, your husbands, your wives, and all that. So the society must appeal to its moral stand ground and ensure that it minimizes its what we call its criminal levels, at the end of the day, its criminal index rather. Then we have certain problems. Long porous borders, we have regional instability, we have a large refugee problem. You see Matiang'i was addressing it. Then we have vast areas that haven't been policed properly. Nairobi itself, Gerald, we have a compounded problem of vigilantes. Today, there's almost a 2.5 million population that lives in the ghettos. Those areas are not properly policed. When you go to Mathare today, there's a vigilante dealing with electricity, dealing
Mathare
with water,
Mental Hospital.
dealing Mathare, the population itself, and dealing with security. The same with Kibra, the same with other areas.
They have
we
their own
have
governments.
gangs in those places, by the way, that have not been generated by the police. It is the community, one way or the other, a criminal index in the community that has formatted itself into a lot of these things. I did a paper on vigilantism, and I believe I gave it to internal security. When I was campaigning, these areas are inaccessible. Unless you buy these gangs, you cannot campaign in that area, and you risk being taken out. But I think as a country, we also need to appreciate the fact that we have done major steps on the question of small arms and large weapons, and small arms and light weapons at the end of the day. There is a program by United Nations. It's called UNPOA on illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. And then there's an organization in the country that is called the Kenya National Focal Point on illicit small arms and light weapons. I don't know whether they have an office or not. The last time we read about them is in between 2000 and 2007. And I believe this is the organization that needs to be put together of experts, you understand, that can finish these problems at the end of the day. When you find guns finding their way from a lot of these populations that are not properly policed into the CBD of the capital of the nation, then we have major problems. And also I think the problem is the believability of DCI. DCI has been politicized over time. It has been seen to be aggressive towards democracy and thereabout. So therefore, even if DCI speaks the truth, it is bound not to be accepted or adopted, at the end of the day. So I think there has to be an institution that is seen as balanced, an institution that is seen within the police, of course, that is seen as not to be augmented politically in one way or the other, an institution that is seen to be merciful to its population, that deals with a lot of these things, because these compounded problems, they need a jointed, not a disjunctive way to be dealt with. The community must come together and combat its criminal index. By the way, some communities in this country, their criminal index is very brutal. Is absolutely very brutal. You will find rape in there. You'll find them holding criminals. You'll find them holding terrorists at the end of the day. So as a society also, is your brother a criminal and you're hiding it? Are you enjoying his money? Is your husband a criminal and you know it and you're enjoying his money? I've worked in some of these informal settlements, and I know that at the end of the day, the wife is wearing nice jeans and a Brazilian weave and those poppy fluffy eyelashes. But someone's blood paid for that. You don't wear them nowadays. But so and you're still entertaining that man man. You're still calling him baby at the end of the day, and he brings blood at home. So we must deal with our moral standpoint
Before
at the end of the
you come
day.
even
And that's the reason why sometimes we elect Wakoras to deal with our national budgets, and we suffer.
As we rolled the conversation yesterday, the courts have ruled that CS positions are illegal, and all the CSSs when you walitoka 2017 and transition without being vetted by the PSC also being held illegal. What's your feeling about that?
I think that that particular ruling adds to the several instances of abuse of power by Jubilee government. Because what happens now that the court has declared that a CAS position was an illegal position, do we have them return all the money we have paid, the upkeep we have
and why
given
now?
you?
But the court also, why now?
You see,
Where have
let
they
me
been
tell
all
you,
this
no,
time?
but you know, you cannot actually crucify the courts because Katiba, was it Katiba Institute? Read the Katiba or Katiba Institute. One of the organization is the one that went to court and sought a constitutional interpretation of this one. They wanted to know whether it is possible for the president to actually jump with his cabinet to the next term without them going to vetting, because normally the term of the cabinet ends with the term of the president, and the president went to the people to sort a new mandate. He was given a new mandate by people. Subsequently, the cabinet that was served him had to go to parliament to sort a new mandate and a new approval. That is one of the things they sought, whether it was legal for the president not to take, I think, 10 cabinet ministers through vetting. The other issue was whether the president was on the right by appointing what they call the CASs. And the process has been in court. And finally, a constitutional court judge has given a ruling on the same and declared those places. I think for me, it's without hitting and going around the issue is that the president came up with a pack to reward those people who served him because
there's also someone called CS without portfolio.
Yes, when you look at the people appointed Dennis as the CAS, all these people are either they were a very big part of the presidential campaign or they were members of parliament and they lost their seats. Quite a hefty, actually, I think of 80% of those appointed. So this, for me, it was a reward scheme by the president. Bypassing the Public Service Commission, and number two, he also did not consult Salary and Remuneration Commission. And I think for me is that now that they have been declared illegal, I of course expect the Attorney General to appeal the decision. And unfortunately, Dennis, maybe you can tell us this is a constitutional ruling, and I don't know.
But also the parliament has been declared illegal, it's still there.
No, of course, it is part of Jubilee government to disobey court orders. It's not something new.
It's in the DNA.
And of course, when I say Jubilee government, as much as I point out the independence of parliament, I also know the operators who are operating parliament are also an extension of the government. So I think for me, I do not expect the president or the Jubilee government to adhere to this constitutional ruling. It has been a norm. This would be like the 5,000 number 5,000 of a court proceeding that has, a matter that a court has adjudicated and addressed itself to it,
including Miguna.
Yes, and the government has simply ignored it. And I think for me, this is where we have the problem in this country. What exactly was the purpose of a CAS in a ministry? What was the purpose other than terming it as a reward scheme for those people who worked diligently for the presidential campaign? So I think for me, I do not expect anything drastic to come out of Jubilee government. They are going to, the Attorney General will institute proceedings probably in the Court of Appeal. Unless the process is going to drag until we have another election. And
until Miguna comes back.
Do you think Miguna probably will come back after 2022 general election? because I don't see this government actually obeying. And you know, it is the same common idiocy in this country that Miguna is being prosecuted for swearing Baba, who now magically and out of
Receiving
nowhere
goats.
became the brother to Uhuru Kenyatta, and he's now receiving goats from the BBI firstborn from Kiambu, who has actually insulted our culture and taken, you know, and then that in Kikuyu tunasemanga
marudi kwa mbuzi.
Thege ya mwili omwe.
Marudi kwa mbuzi. Ruth Ambogo.
It is never taken by someone.
Ruth
akiwa
Ambogo.
peke yake.
Yes.
So,
The same thing CSS ruled illegal, and also those guys who did not go through the vetting, the CSS. Now,
You see, at the end of the day, what I talk about is that what as a legal practitioner, for me, processes are very important, and they're not just important for the sake of them being processes, but they're important by the mere virtue that at the end of the day, the people that are being appointed to any whatsoever office that are being appointed to are supposed to be serving the mwananchi. So what happens when the state or the president bypasses certain processes is that it leads to a situation where you wonder, what exactly is that supposed to mean? It leads to the situation whereby you ask yourself, is the state really concerned about the fact that these are people who are supposed to serve mwananchi? I do agree with the ruling, especially about the CASs, because at the end of the day, these are servants of the mwananchi. You ask yourself, sometimes you see, no offense, Bitok. Mimi kuna siku nilipata fununu, I don't know how true it was. There's a time I had a fununu at this last recent appointment ya CASs, at jina yangu ilikuwa kwa list na siku make it. It was credible information from somewhere. And you know, when such rulings come out,
she's trying to solicit a
I am
seat
not
through this
soliciting
show.
a seat, governor. Nisikize na unisikize vizuri. I got that information from a very reliable source. Na haikuwa source moja, actually two sources. By the time they were thinking about appointing new CASs, I'm telling you, I already got information that my name was being discussed somewhere. After the appointment of CASs, nikakuja tena nikasikia that my name was on the list. Na siku make it. You know, when you start hearing such things, na sijipigi kifua or anything like that. I'm just being very, very honest. When you start hearing such rulings coming out, then it makes you wonder. Then it makes you ask yourself that had the processes been followed, had public participation been pursued, or had public participation been a factor that was considered, then maybe you would have made it, you know, because at the end of the day, public participation is citizens coming out and saying that or the vetting via public participation is citizens coming out and saying that we know candidate A. And for the position of youth, for example, CASY Ministry of Youth, tunajua Ruth Ambogo amekuwa akitetea wananchi, amekuwa akitetea vijana for 5 years. We've seen her activities. She's run a lot of projects in sports, talent promotion, she's there, education, she's there, everything, industrialization, she's there, haki za vijana ako hapo, maneno ya girl child ako hapo. Then because we have vetted her as a public, we think she's best suited for that position. So when you bypass processes such as public participation, my friend Gerald Bitok, it is recipe for people's friends, no offense, girlfriends, people's PAs.
Kama zile nominated MCA.
Exactly. But it is a recipe for my girlfriends wa watu, ma PA wa watu, watu ma spanner boys wa watu wa mkono wa watu kuchaguliwa kama CASs. And I'm not mentioning names, by the way. I'm just saying some of the appointments of the CASs we have had have terribly disappointed us. At the end of the day, you look at them and you are asking yourself, are these people serving mwananchi ama watakuwa ni choir ya masters, you know? That is the question.
But
Let
me give the Dennis amaliza mambo ya CS, then we'll come to you.
Yeah,
kidogo tarudi kwa mbuzi tena.
Hapana, sitarudi. I'm just saying.
Amaliza alafu tutakuja. Alikuja kwako.
Gerald, I believe that there are many such petitions. Okiya Mtata, I think, petitions this back in 2018, and that's why we're asking ourselves that the ruling has delayed in itself, or whether the court was applying itself to the doctrine of avoidance, you know, to perhaps avoid creating a crisis that the court itself, by the way, has suspended this ruling because it has said that getting CSs off now in a time of COVID would create a necessary crisis. So therefore, the ruling has been suspended by Judge Murima, the same ruling that he put, and said that the ruling shall apply at a time that the court pleases itself after the COVID crisis. The problem itself is that after the COVID crisis, after the COVID crisis in itself is undefined. We don't know when that will be. We have no idea when it will be at the end of the day. So my brother Okiya Omtata applied himself to Article 201D that says that prudent use of money is not being applied because the CS position, first of all, is expensive and it's costing the taxpayers money. That's number one. Again, the same ruling has applied itself to the process at which Parliament was not involved. There was no vetting. Absolutely, there was no vetting. And whether the seat of CAS is described and defined within the constitution of the country. So other than the fact that saying that the process is illegal, saying that funds are being abused, there's also the idea that vetting was not carried out by oversight institution. And number 4, the fact that whether there's such an office in the constitution or the office was created for political expediency and convenience at the end of the day to silence detractors. Because I'm imagining the president, he needed to please too many people. If those guys were idle there, mashinani, weko huko Ndeia wanafukuza mbuzi nini, wangekuwa wanasumbua. But at the end of the day, sisi ndio tunalipa hao masumbua. And we are pleasing him. And if you can't even remember 5 active CSs, we can't remember other than the guy who was transferred to sports. And I don't know which other CS do you know?
Ilikuwa mingi.
Na huyu former women lepo Nairobi.
Hata simjui. Huyo si ameenda retire, you know.
Beatrice Elachi, who former speaker.
You don't even remember them or what they do at the end of the day. You understand?
Yes.
So the concept of Article 1 that we the citizens should see a proper return on investment of this CS position, we don't know at the end of the day. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing also that the judge has faulted is on the appointment of CSs. And the appointment of CSs, the idea is that Article 155(3)(a) has been violated because the public service was not consulted. So not only has this government bypassed processes, parliament and the public service, the fact is that the consideration, the sensitivity that we're in a financial crisis as a nation, that they need to be accountable to citizens at the end of the day was thrown out of the window to make sure that a guy who needs to be pleased, he has loans for houses, his car is fueled, he can please his girlfriends, as my friend said here, and many other things that one office of a CS, which is absolutely expensive, you inconvenience the financial status of the country to make sure that you meet a certain type of political expediency. I don't know for what.
Okay.
Even in terms of, and by the way, this ruling is injected in the fact that it joins the first and the second term. It says that those ones who are appointed in the first term needed to be vetted by parliament and those relevant institutions to be able to serve in the second term. So in itself, this is a violation of the constitution in wholly. But my disappointment is that the court, I don't know where the CSs are involved in the fight for COVID, because technically, other than the reports from Mutahi Kagwe, you struggle to see what is being done to fight COVID. You understand?
And then they've all gone under water.
And so, therefore, the court has left the abuse to continue. And I think this is where we say that justice hasn't been served. And I think these were some of the things that are being addressed in the current ongoing interviews with the various CJs and whatever it is that there is. So I believe that the court has left justice to the mercy of those who are perpetuating injustice.
Okay. Mushin, there's something you were saying very quickly.
No, I was gonna say that I was challenging my friend here, Ruth.
Yes. I should know people.
You know. She's talking about the illegalities this government has supported. And I thought her double speak should not go unchallenged. Because every other day, Ruth Ambogo, apart from today where he has not mentioned her party leader,
let me mention Musalia Mudavadi.
So
She has done well. In fact, I was about to congratulate her. She's really done well today.
Congratulations.
You've done well.
We were just about... So...
In fact, I was wondering if she's feeling well.
You're the only Kenyan who doesn't know that Musalia Mudavadi, you know, hii ni biashara ya Ingo. Sasa either aende Musalia ama aende Weta, nani mwingine the bullfighter huyo sijui ameenda wapi. Lakini Mukisa unajua ni discussion, are you an insider or an outsider? Mukisa anaongea kizungu mingi sana. Kizungu hata ieleweki. Na apendi kuku.
Very funny when Ruth Ambogo... Listen, it's very funny when Ruth Ambogo comes to the mic,
yes,
and talks the ills and the issues the government is not doing.
In fact, I was wondering if she's feeling
how
well.
the government is not disrespecting.
You mean you're going to take that position for years? You're going to take illegal money?
Hapana.
No. What I'm challenging is this Bitok. She cannot purport to correct government and critic government, and on the other side sing the song of Musalia, who is actually supporting Uhuru, his brother. And the other day they paraded themselves in State House, Sons of Power.
Ile team Fuliza team wanaitwa Fuliza team wako Kenya.
Yote ilikuwa imeparade on Power supporting Uhuru Kenyatta. Then Ruth Ambogo is here and is telling us the government has misused COVID money. The government disobeyed constitution by money. And Musalia is speaking money from that government.
The Fuliza guys.
And tomorrow
is an independent
probably
mind.
if Ambogo lives here, he will be doing
Independent
coffee in
mind,
the morning
but,
with
not
Musalia
independent
in his
body.
residence here. And they will probably be taking the illegal route that Musalia
Shauri
has
yenu.
gotten from State House.
Mimi ni mlanyasi.
Dakika 5 imebaki. Endelea tu kupiga story hapa
Mimi
badala
ni
ya
mlanyasi.
haya maliza Kenya kwa nasema. Lakini unafanya vizuri sana Ruth. In fact I was wondering if you're feeling well. Hujasalimiana, hujataja Mudavadi.
Wacha nikwambie,
Haya mwishowe.
nimeona Nikuere
Alright, so tuende kwa siasa.
nimeona Nikuere ana watch, you know.
Haya tuingia kwa siasa, tuingia kwa siasa.
Tuingia kwa siasa. Tuma salamu 35 minutes. Hajaongea mambo ya kitaifa.
Uluya bwana, uluya na muluya itamaliza. Alright, let's ingia kwa siasa. We had MPs the other day. 60 MPs. Is it 60 or 45? 48. From Central Kenya who are having a conversation with Deputy President. I think the same thing also, there was a continuation yesterday. Also Murathe on local Kikuyu station declared that law ya Hulu iko kwa Laila. Law ya Hulu iko kwa Laila. So the question is, all right, we're having this contact. All these guys are coming from Mount Kenya.
Yes.
They are seemingly declaring two candidates in Mount Kenya. Who is likely to have a leverage back then in Mount Kenya between the Deputy President and Raila Odinga? Especially if the president decides to back Raila Odinga.
I think it is, if history is anything to go by, Raila Odinga finds himself on the minus in Central Kenya. If we are applying history as it is. And the current relationship between the president and the prime minister is a relationship of convenience for the president. That the president already knew that the deputy president made serious inroads in Central Kenya. Because I'll tell you, away from the nonsense the 527 bloggers propagate every other day, it's true, yes. They are paid 527
bloggers.
Wanalipwa 500 na ya kutoa, but most importantly they make sure they are not paid. Most importantly they make sure they are not paid enough money to attract tax. So because even the bosses who pay them are some of the biggest tax defaulters in this country. So I wanted to say this, that the president already knew that it was going to be a very rough ride in the second term, that his deputy had made so much inroads in Central, and he needed to look for something to appease and make sure that his administration is not left naked. And subsequently, Raila Odinga came in handy. Raila Odinga has been a political wheel dealer. He has been a political enigma, someone who has understand the underhand tactics of trading politics as a tool of survival in this country. And therefore, Raila Odinga saw an opportunity to propagate his agenda through the back door. And the president on the other side saw an opportunity to alter the political landscape that was working against him. And therefore, when you hear Murathe speaking about Raila Odinga being the presidential choice, this is what we call them Mount Kenya Mafia. Mount Kenya Mafia is gone, but we have a few rogue individuals within the OP, within the presidential non-official kitchen that propagate this analogy that Raila Odinga is popular in Central Kenya. I respect Raila Odinga. I think he's one of the best politicians I have come across. But I will tell you, Raila Odinga picking Central Kenya will always be a problem. Now, notwithstanding the current support the deputy president enjoys in our region, and it is very easy for Ruto to continue cultivating that relationship and maintain the status quo. But for Raila Odinga, it's going to work hard. You know, let's not pretend that the other day Raila Odinga was going to Kenya. Did you see any Central Kenya MP coming to receive him? Let me tell you, if today we go to Mrembe Nation, for you to actually feel like you have become part of Mrembe Nation, I would expect that, even if it's not all the MP, quite a sustainable number from that region is also making inroads on your behalf. Now, the people who propagate the Raila Odinga ideology in Central Kenya have one common character, all of them. They are not elected leaders. Murathe. Hold your horses. Murathe. Minor commander. These are people with no responsibility given to them by the members of the public. These are people who are, let me tell you, these are people who are only concerned about themselves. Let me tell you, this season when Uhuru Kenyatta has worked with Raila Odinga, there are people like Murathe do not talk so much. But when they talk with such an arrogance, because that relationship was very beneficial to their personal financial world. It was beneficial to their business. It was beneficial to the relationship between Murathe and probably the state operators. So I am on submission that there can never be a competition between Raila Odinga and William Ruto in Central Kenya. It cannot be. It is not there. William Ruto has already taken a poll, has taken something called, when you're doing, I'm a very big fan of Formula 1. And before you actually do the actual race, there is those testing where you decide who will take the pole position when the race starts. So in this case, William Ruto has already taken the pole position. It is like telling McLaren when they have taken the pole position, they can be competing with Renault that has lost 7 races in a row, and you expect them to come and continue acting at par. The poison against the Odingaism in this country has already been injected to almost everybody in Central Kenya. And those who are telling Raila he can make inroad in Central Kenya are just playing cosmetic politics. That's my opinion.
Haya, you go Ntumbi.
Yes.
Alafu tuende kwa mama Masa.
Mambo mazito.
Toto mali safi.
Governor Mengia. Central Kenya has realized that God has blessed them with independent minds.
Yeah.
For a very long time, there's a doctrine that has been propagated to Central Kenya. And my analogy is not biblical. It is borrowed
Political?
from... no, it is borrowed from farming. And animal husbandry. It is where the shepherd hates any competition from the wolf. And consistently would speak to the sheep about the dangers of the wolf but it is the shepherd who will eat the sheep every Christmas and Easter. You understand? So the danger to the sheep, indeed, was not the wolf, was the shepherd. You understand? And the shepherd would also sell these sheep to butchers. Like Mushendo's relatives, I think they must own a butcher. Ukiona hiyo mwili ya Mushendo, unajua hiyo ni mwili inakula sheep kabisa.
Nakula mkia.
What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that there's a very expensive hate campaign that was engineered against Raila Odinga as a person. But when you follow history, you realize that Jaramogi was one of the greatest friends of the Kikuyus, of the peasant Kikuyu farmers, by the way.
Yes.
He propagated policies and laws
That favored
the Kikuyu peasants.
Very true.
Then certainly, by some sheer unfortunate thing, the son became one of the most hated people in central Kenya because of that doctrine that was propagated to hate him.
Yeah.
And it was an expensive one. The doctrine of Mogoroki, the doctrine of Kemondo, the doctrine of uncircumcised man, the doctrine of Umuganga, the doctrine of if this man takes the presidency,
we are finished.
You understand?
Yes.
And this was the only time that the Kikuyu Baron, who has nothing to do with the peasants, you understand, was showing that us as Kikuyu nation, we are jointed. You understand? There's an injunctiveness to us. We are not disjointed. Tuko pamoja. You understand? You understand? Tuko pamoja.
Yeah.
You know, njeshi turehamwe. Sisi sote ni pamoja. Na hii mtu atatumaliza. You understand? But when you flip the coin and you look at the advantage that Raila contest towards democracy has brought to this nation,
it favors everybody.
Even the peasant farmer is favored. So I stopped hating Raila. You understand? And I repented, and I repent again. God forgive me for any time that I hated Raila, and for any time I looked at my Luo brother in a different way. And by the way, I have a lot of Luo friends, and you know, and they are lovely people. And I keep on telling Kikuyus, tembea Kisumu,
you will
see
will enjoy your life.
The way Central has received a road deal that Kiambu, Nyeri, and other areas cannot match the development and the status of Nyanza, a place that has not received political favoritism or capital for years. They've survived within their means. You understand? But those towns at the end of the day, in the Lake Basin, you understand, they have developed a type of mechanism, you understand,
survive.
The survival mechanism that has propped themselves beyond the kind of fallacy that has been sold in Central. Because Central Mutuetu is the biggest incident and accident,
that
threat and risk
happened.
that has ever happened in Central Province. You understand? The Mtuetu phenomenon. And Central Kenya has woken up to that unfortunate thing.
Okay.
Whether they can be able to reverse the mentality against Raila is something that we leave it to God. But again,
it will be a
their
test
embracing of William Ruto has showed them that what we need is to embrace
different people,
a different person who will care about us. You understand? And the Mashinani leaders, the elected leaders, have embraced this man. The reason is because there's you know, when you study the emergence of Mungiki, that Mungiki was not a dangerous vigilante. They emerged from a socio-economic status. The fact that it wasn't even Nyumba Kumi. They wanted economic liberation at the end of the day. You understand? Because there's a class war in Central Province. There's a class war in Central Province. When you saw the Central Province farmer uprooting their coffee, because we uprooted coffee, we uprooted majani, we started planting them the other day, because now at least there's money that's coming in, and that money is coming in from the fact that the MPs are disjointed to the Baron. The MPs is, by the way,
So the Baron is now.
At the end of the day, those technically, those ones.
I'm not very smart.
Those ones, the Baron.
I'm not very clever. Who is the Baron?
You're slow. You read slowly.
Yes, agree. Me and William, we are very slow people.
Scientists are like
scientists, we are very slow.
Scientists are like that.
Please tell us who is
For
the
me,
Baron.
in security, I have to catch things. So the Baron.
For the sake of us at the back.
Yeah. For the sake of scientists. So the Baron is those ones who have appointed themselves as eternal rulers of Central Province. You understand? At one point, Mushendo has worshipped them. Now he's here contesting against them, and we forgive him for that.
He's saved.
You understand? At
He has
the
seen
end
the
of the
light, or the light has seen him.
but
They say only. No. They say only a fool can't.
Tukifunga
change his
kazi,
mind.
we are 10 minutes. We are 10 minutes past time. So
at the end of the day,
12 minutes, actually.
Central has voice.
Mike?
Central has woken to the realization.
you've muted. I think you click on the reds. There's somewhere. Okay. We've lost his mic.
To the realization that to the realization that they've been receiving a road deal, and the embracing of William Ruto at the end of the day.
So do you think it's not reversible?
I think that the hate doctrine is something that they keep on questioning themselves.
Okay.
Or whether should we, or should we not? You remember that that Raila Odinga is still an in-law to the Kikuyu people.
Okay.
The late son, at the end of the day, married there. But those interventions, they didn't quite medicate the hate doctrine against him. Unfortunately.
Okay. Haya, labda yeye mwenyewe enda owe mwenyewe sasa. Sanitize Ruth.
Yes.
What do you think? Will you sanitize Raila Odinga in Central ama Kimaumana?
I will tell you one thing for sure.
Ama achemusho miaka 3 kwa
Kitu
maji.
ambacho mimi nitakwambia ni kimoja about this man called Raila Amolo Odinga. You know, I like the fact that we are saying, let us say, give credit where credit is due and say things for what they are. I will speak from my own personal experience with Raila Amolo Odinga. I met Raila Amolo Odinga for the first time when I was a first-year law student at Strathmore University. And he had just come from the 2013 elections. Well, I mean, when I talk about this, of course, people will guess my age. My age is public information knowledge. Google utapata. So when Raila Amolo Odinga had just lost the 2013 elections, he went underwater and disappeared completely. Now, Strathmore University, and this is not an advertisement for Strathmore University or Strathmore Law School, it has a project or a program whereby every Thursday they used to have
ulifikaje kwanza Strathmore? Nimekuuliza mambo ya Raila Odinga na Ruto. Nimesema ulifikaje huko?
Sasa Strathmore, nisikize tu nikwambie.
Walikuwa na ngati huko.
Strathmore University, nisikize story inakuja. Had this program, I don't know if they still do, Strathmore Law School had a program where every Thursday they would bring random guest lecturers to come and speak to students on various issues. So one of those fine days, I remember on a Monday we were told via an email, we will have a special guest coming to speak to the students, law school students on Thursday. So another email came again on a Wednesday. Students, kindly remember tomorrow there's a very special guest coming to speak to the students. Kindly converge at a certain area. The same day now on Thursday lunch, before around the same time we were to have the lecture, 2 hours before that, to Kambua, please remember to attend the session. So I got very curious and asked myself, what is this session that is so special?
Was it Governor
that we are
Mushendo?
getting that we are getting constant reminders to attend. So I attended. And kidogo tumekaa kidogo, we see some men in black walking into the auditorium with the men in black huyu kwanza amevaa black yote. Dennis amevaa black. So some men in black appear. Next thing we know, a man walks in, and who is it? Raila Odinga. Baba. I am one person, actually Baba, yes. I'm one person who, from the time I was a young girl, would admire Raila Odinga's politics. Back in 2007, followed his politics very closely. I was a strong supporter, even though I was not a voter at that particular period of time. I had just finished my class 8, but I was following his politics very keenly. 2002, I had followed his politics. I had read about his contribution towards democracy. I had read about his contribution towards freedom of expression, freedom of media, the constitution, contributions towards the constitution, and basically read about his life. The moment that man walked in Bitok, I'm telling you, I crossed my fingers and I said, Dear God, may the Dean of Strathmore Law School, Dr. Franceschi, for the first time in his life, give me a chance to give the vote of thanks when Raila Amolo Odinga finishes talking. I crossed my fingers. There used to be people who used to be given that opportunity to speak. Mimi kizungu yangu ilikuwa ijaenda shule, mimi nilikuwa bado niko na ka accent kengine ka dangerous.
Amboko.
I was just Amboko from Kuisero, Shamahoho with very bad English. So people who used to be given the chance to speak and give vote of thanks walikuwa wale wa English ya mapua. But I crossed my fingers. And because the dean used to know about my involvement in politics and my love for politics. And I think at some point he also knew that I was a supporter for Raila Odinga. So I crossed my fingers and the dean sent me a message and said that Ruth Ambogo, I'd like you to give the vote of thanks via text message. Nikasikiza speech ya huyu mjamaa talking about his struggles for independence, talking not really independence but second liberation for the country, speaking about how he was jailed and detained, talking about how I will not mention which part of the body but we all know which, wafinywa de kufinywa, speaking about how he abandoned his family, how he had to abandon his family and hide because he was fighting for this country. My goodness. And Ruth Ambogo stood to speak and give the vote of thanks. Kale ka vote of thanks kenye nilipeana kalikuwa moto. Next thing I knew, after the speech, I was called to sit down and have lunch with Raila Odinga at first year. By the way, after this, nitashare hiyo picha kwa timeline yangu tukikuwa na Raila Odinga. Nikapeana vote of thanks. Akaniita, tukakula lunch na yeye. He was still talking about his struggles.
Raila ataingia Central.
Raila Odinga. Sasa wacha nikuambie kitu moja. Hapana, hiyo picha nitatuma tu after this. One thing I want Kenyans to realize is that at the end of the day, wish away Raila Amolo Odinga as much as you want. But this is a man who has contributed to where the country is right now. He has raised leaders. He has nurtured leaders. In 2017, I was in his campaign as the Secretary General for Daughters of Raila. I saw how he operates. I got very close to his family members who became my mentors, who have supported my political growth, not career, because I'm now in my political career, but my political growth, they have supported it. I saw how dedicated the daughter Winnie Odinga is, the wife to Raila Amolo Odinga. I have spoken to that lady over 3 times, 4 times on phone. She's a woman who is committed to nurturing leaders. Wish Raila Amolo Odinga at your cost. Sijahama. Now I'm just talking about Raila Amolo Odinga.
Central. You're talking about Central
Kenya region. What I will tell you for sure is this. I agree with what Dennis has said, that independent minds are rising right now. And some of those independent minds are young people. Some of those very independent minds we are talking about are young people. And I want to discredit Governor Mushendu and tell him, just because you are an elected leader does not necessarily mean that you espouse the views of the people. So just because Raila Amolo Odinga went to ni wapi yuko Kenol akakosa kukaribishwa na viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa does not mean that Raila Amolo Odinga does not enjoy the support and following of the people. Do not forget that even without members of parliament, even without members, let us not forget that even without members of parliament, Raila Amolo Odinga marshaled people who showed up. Whether the people were few or not, the people showed up. And they were actually many of them. Whether it was Curious on Lucas who was saying, huyu mtu tumekuwa tukimambiwa ni kimodo kigoroke, ametokelezea tunataka kuona kama amepona. Whether they were Curious on Lucas, whether they were haters of Raila Amolo Odinga, they showed up. There are certain areas of this country, I will be very honest with you, that my party leader would go to. I am very honest with you. That not even my party leader, that my preferred, because I am yet to register as a member of ANC, that my preferred presidential candidate at the moment, have you mmesikia vile nimesema, at the moment my preferred presidential candidate would go to and would not marshal hata watu 500. But Raila Amolo Odinga alienda Central Kenya na muliona umati ambao alipatana nayo. So the truth of the matter is, give credit where credit is due. That man is coming and is coming very fast. When you see the likes of Murade speaking and saying that we want to support this man, when you see the president working with him to inspect projects, when you see a handshake between Raila Amolo Odinga and the president, when you see things like that happening, my friend, do not ignore. And I will tell my preferred presidential candidate at the moment, Musalia Mudavadi, when I will tell Musalia Mudavadi, my friend, do not ignore such signs. They might not lead to anywhere, they might not be meaningful and as a chezwa, but at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that our message has been passed.
Okay. All right. The same also is hanging out with Gideon. Anyway,
there's a strong injunction that we need to put.
The freezer team.
Number one, my assertions must not be deemed as though I'm campaigning for Raila. I said that Central needs to heal from lies, and Central needs to see the truth, and Central needs to open its doors more to other people to listen to that. Now, there is one outstanding difference between Raila and Dr. William Ruto. Is that Raila has had major opportunities of movements, such as the Orange Movement and others, to build them into national movements. But unfortunately, they've collapsed as personal movements. You know, he has the ability to raise a mountain, but then he shaves that mountain to become a bungalow at the end of the day. You understand? Okay. And so, it's absolutely unfortunate that he's obviously not even raising leaders to take over him. If you look at ODM itself, and if you try and look at strongmen, you may not find them. The other thing is that ideologies, when you try and ask yourself, which is the ideology of Mr. Raila Odinga, you'll struggle. Okay. And I think also Central is upset by the fact that he may have shaken hands by a perceived oppressor, at the end of the day. Okay. You understand? So there's a difference between the two. And I think Dr. William Ruto is going to Central with a very strong conviction and with an ideology that would see the peasant rising from the ashes that they've been buried through. But when you see Raila Odinga, you need to ask yourself, sir, what is your ideology? We appreciate the fact that your discontentions have stretched our constitution to other realms. When you hear the CJ interviews, you'll see Raila 1, you'll see Raila 2, you'll hear the mentions of such. But we fail to see what is your doctrine, what is your concept, and who is behind you at this particular time. So I think those struggles are struggles that the people Central would struggle with.
Wacha tufunge na mwananchi. Jambo.
Mzuri.
Niambie nikusikia.
Halo, ya muna vitu?
Azamage.
Kukuri na sedia amenye kibira. Kwa mko afande ngune jamii ngala diere jambo lakini kama nyorungi kidogo kabisa.
Mielo. Sawa, Sabirun. Sawa, Sabirun.
Bitok, your auntie is calling you now.
Gongoi, asante.
Translate.
Huyu ni fan, anatufuatanga nataka kuongea na mimi.
Nilikuwa nafikiria ni Auntie Jerop.
Asante sana, nitakupigia Madam Sabirun.
Imiano.
Okay. Haya, tumefunga kazi kwa sababu wakati tungezungumzia mambo ya Jubilee. Jubilee imejitenga na UDA. Sijui sasa what's the future ya Jubilee ya UDA outside Jubilee, kwa sababu kusema kwamba wamekuwa kijikinga wakisema PRD as a coalition agreement with Jubilee.
PDR.
Now, is it PDR? Okay, now UDA. So, Kimomana. So, we'll see how it goes. But thank you so much, guys, for coming in. Hope to see you again next week. Rutembogo. Asante sana kwa kuja. Dennis, ndio mimi
Hauko unataka voters nani wasikilizaji.
Amepotea tena huyu. Ningempea nafasi ya maliza, lakini sasa kama ameingia nasi.
Bitoka, I think we need another movement.
Sawa, ya mwisho.
We need another movement so that we can touch
on... But anyway, so let me give you guys 30 seconds.
Yes, we can touch on the issue of church, because that is one of the discussion we agreed. From here, I want to say thank you to
viewers. Election kwenu?
Uko Kiambaa? Mimi nikitoka hapa naenda Kiambaa. There is no, I'm not vying, but I have interest in Kiambaa. Okay. One of the reasons why I want to be in Kiambaa is that the Koinange family has been in power for 100 years. And that in Kiambaa. And you remember those were the days when the former president would say that his vote and that of Gena would bring Kiambaa MP, it would bring Limuru member of parliament, then Geshoro. The president said, and after the president passed on in 1978, 1979, Jenga Karome took Bio Koinange to political obituaries. And fast forward until 2013 again, when Koinange has taken over for another 10 years. Remember the Karoga?
So Kiambaa needs a coup.
Yes, Karoga, the former famous powerful PCS from Koinange. You remember there was a Bio Koinange who was a senator in the first the first Senate. So therefore, we want to tell the people of Koinange, the people of Kiambaa, that this family has been there for 100 years. They have been not able to do anything in Kiambaa. In fact, if you take a Google stray within Kiambaa constituency, the most idle, biggest tract of land belongs to this family. And they are not looking for this seat because they have interest of Mwananchi at heart. They are looking for this seat so that they can continue to invest and take care of their illegal acquired assets. And therefore, we want to tell people, the Koinange family, we are waiting because you have given us so many candidates. We are waiting for you to do your mini nominations. Mutupatie candidate ya watu ya Koinange, na sisi watu ya Kiambaa tufanye nomination yetu, tulete mtu mwenye ameletwa na watu ya Kiambaa, tuonane. But this constituency must remain Kiambaa constituency. It cannot, like someone who alluded that it is not Kiambaa constituency, it is the Koinange constituency. This has to stop. And the people of Kiambaa must raise and say no to this kind of politics. Yes, Koinange family lane is the writing is on the wall. Mene tekel. Your ruling has come to an end.
Hi, Ruth Ambogo, very quickly, 30 seconds.
All I have to say is that I'm grateful to the young people who are believing in my candidature, Bitok. I am grateful that as each and every day, and in fact, I'm grateful. Let me just be honest and first say that it has been by the grace of God. I entered this race in the race for women, Vihiga County Woman Representative seat. Officially, I declared my stand to vie for this seat in November 2020, 1st of November, after consulting God peke yake. Mimi siku consult familia, siku consult sijui nani, I consulted God. And the answer I got was, my daughter, go ahead, you have my blessings.
Mungu ama jawabu
tu mwenyewe tu. Mimi unajua kila mtu ana communicate
na Mungu wako na Mungu wengi sana.
Hapana wewe, tutakupeleka mbio, usiongee mbaya juu ya Waluya na niko hapa. So God himself gave me the go ahead to run for this seat. I never consulted anybody. Mimi sitawadanganya ati the people said I should run. No. The people had been saying kutoka kitambo, my friends and all that, my followers, but I got my conviction from God that I should vie for this seat. When I entered, it was very difficult. Bitok, I am telling you, I faced a lot. I'm still facing a lot of challenges. But what I would say is that I am grateful for favor and grace, Bitok. We really ignore what favor and grace can do to one. That I'm actually not one of, I am the youngest aspirant for the Vihiga County Woman Representative seat. And what I hear right now is that I am the topic of discussion in the incumbents camp, Bitok. They have strategy meetings to strategize about Ruth Ambogo, this young lady.
Wanakuongelea mambo ya CS.
Ngoja, bado sijamaliza Bitok. It is by the grace of God that the young people are embracing my candidature. And by the way, wacha nikwambie, my youth wakiamua wameamua. I've been saying this, Bitok. In this coming 2022 elections, you ignore the vote of the young people at your own risk. Not just the vote, but the interests and concerns. And these theatrics zetu kama my youth, ignore it at your own peril. And by the way, also as a public service announcement to aspirants and candidates, especially the incumbents. And this is a direct message to the woman representative, Honorable Adagala. If you want to deal with Ruth Ambogo, deal with her on matters policy, deal with her on matters agenda, deal with her on matters your track record. Do not deal with Ruth Ambogo with violence.
Sanitize Ruth. Sanitize.
Lazima nimesanitize. Last Saturday nilikuwa mkutano Shiru. Not last Saturday, the other Saturday. Nilikuwa mkutano kule Shiru ward. In a meeting where I was invited. I want to understand today, why did Beatrice Adagala send her PA Ayodi to come and beat me in a meeting? Thank
you
God.
were beaten.
I was not beaten. Thank God that I have my campaign team walikuwa wamekula ugali ya kisiagi.
Hata akona goods.
Walikuwa wamekula ugali ya kisiagi.
Anyway, sawa. Asante Ruth.
Otherwise, sasa mimi ningekuwa Nairobi.
Niko na Mkenya kwa simu.
Listen, ningekuwa Nairobi Nairobi Hospital nikinas wounds kwa kichwa.
Haya, tukimaliza na wewe jamaa kona 28 771 722. Jambo, good morning.
Good morning ndugu yangu Kitoka.
Jambo.
Jambo sana, wasalimia waheshimiwa hapo.
Wamesalimika tukifunga kazi na wewe?
Acha mimi naitwa Kozgei Kipkale Arab Kozgei from Ruiru.
Yes sir. Mtu wa nini Ruiru Rainbow Resort?
Exactly, ni mimi.
Ya tutakuja kula nyama hapo.
Karibu tutakula nyama, karibuni. Sasa ile Kenya iko saa hii. Umwambie Madam Ruth kwamba does she know that Honorable Raila is enjoying the only less than 10 dynasties while the Honorable DP supports gets the support from masses of Kenyans. Yes. Let her confirm. Thank you.
Haya, asante sana. Haya, Dennis Ndumbi, sekunde 30 tafadhali. Tumepitisha wakati.
Yeah. For me, I want to encourage Kenyans who are going through a very, very tough time at the end of the day. And, when you look around, is that things are getting tougher. So I don't want them to get discouraged. I'm saying let's not get discouraged. Let us wage war against what is fighting us.
All right.
At the end of the day.
Asante.
Let us ensure that this disease does not swallow us. We are not alone. We have God.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
Asante sana.
When you look at what is coming forth, the elections, the political scenario, the financial scenario, the fact that what is ahead looks darker. I want to tell them that God has plans for us that are not evil. I want them to know that they need to be discouraged, and we need to put our hope not on the CJ, not on the president, not on the police force, but entirely on God. Okay. And then I want to encourage my sister here.
Yes.
They say that politics or elective politics is not for new entrants. But I love the fact that she's relying on God. But it may be a long stretch. We're having conversations in this country that there's a likelihood of elections being postponed, at the end of the day. So even if you're campaigning within Vihiga, it's important also to look at the national picture and to see how do we influence the uptake of democracy, because I believe that democracy is sequential at the end of the day. Right. How do we make sure that democracy is not subjugated? Right. The other thing is that politically, Kenyans are fatigued. Even a lot of these by-elections, they don't see the fruit that is coming out of these by-elections. When you look at even positions that, like what my sister is vying from Women Rep, if you want to quantify the kind of help that has come from that seat alone, you may not get it. Okay. So at the end of the day, when you look at the seat in Machakos where Kavindu won, you understand, the lowest return on the voting capacity, and at the end, the apathy was appalling. At the end of the day, you understand.
It's a message from Kenyans.
We need to ensure that Kenyans, let us not leave our democratic role and mandate. Let us not feel hopeless. Okay. It is our opportunity to make sure that we put this country back on its knees. Okay. Because again, we must be the hope of the nation.
Asante
and we must
sana.
depend on God.
All right, thank you. Juan Jagi, Dennis Dubi, may your family and you be blessed with great health. Asante sana. Arudha Mboko Gaimba will do so. Setting up structures. Naona tayari wakanafanya campaign ataanza kulipa kakitu. Naona sili nasema Dennis Dubi, don't make cover of the institution is corrupt apart from what cannot exposed, that we have nothing to do with our citizens. Since everything we do, orders from above, mission don't go. Oh, okay, and so we believe in you. Mkana Masa, as a youth, I know you have my well-being. Asante sana. Nancy Deuri falling from Mutawala. Thank you. James Mwenda, Ruth, hata mimi nilisikia I was the one who has replaced you on the list, then Ababu replaced me. Right. Okay, thank you so much. From a better Viga, vote for Ukrasu leadership. Ruth is one of the revamped women matters handling Jeruta Mbogo. Asante sana. Haya, James Mwenda, information from my very credible source. Mambo alikuwa anapiga gumso hapa na Ruth kidogo. Atatafute nani? Stan Meli anasema good leaders are raise others and hand over the buttons. Raila has decided to hold his button. Same to Atuoli. Yes, Mwenda, I can imagine the kind of speed Ruth will remove when introducing me to a fox, assuming the coffee goes well. Aya, kimbia pale kwa Ruth, naweza kutumia Google Maps mahali ni wapi. Ndiritu George, All Citizen TV editors and reporters, report director of criminal investigation at the DCI office. Mary Mushai 100 years of Koinange family. Kipkali Arab Koske, I can see your contact calling. Karibu sana kwa asante sana kwa PS Boss Njuguna. Does the lady know that Rao is being supported by a section of people and Ruto is supported by a mass as far as central position is concerned? The section of the supporters are doing this for fear of being revisited. Haya, Pauline Cherop anasema believe in God is supreme. Asante sana. Anasema peace in campaigns. James Mwenda ndogo sema kimaumana. Haya, Pauline Cherop, see you kesho. Asante sana. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you gentlemen and lady for coming to talk. We really appreciate you. See you again next week. Until tomorrow, take care guys on Diaspora Edition. Tunaona kesho tupige gumzo tujue kunani wapi na kwa nini. This is a tackle and a tackle ends now. Bye bye and take care. We love you.